Okay. What's happening, folks? Welcome to Ichabod. This is a call-in show, and you have an atheist, a former Christian, here waiting to talk to theists about why you believe what you believe, and why should I believe what you claim I should believe. And just know, I was once one of you. I was once one of the people going around the world begging, pleading with, appealing to, persuading other people that you must believe what I believe. I got extremely good at persuading people. I spent my entire day just thinking of ways to flip normal life situations into metaphors, analogies, uh, appeals about Jesus. And so I know what it's like to have the burden, the concern for people's souls, and to then spend your time, your talent, your energy, your money, um, making sure that you got a chance to present other people with this salvation. But I don't believe it anymore. And I would like to talk to you about why I think it does not deserve our faith. But before we get into that, welcome to Ichabod. I am your host, Be Good, formerly the Christian rapper Fanatic. If you see me on Facebook now, you'll know I'll go by Fanatic because I'm not a fanatic of Jesus anymore. But welcome to the channel. Shout out to all of the Patreon supporters, people who've been rocking with the channel and just showing their support and love. If your name is on the screen, your name is in my heart. Thank you all so much. And good things coming in the weeks ahead. In the meantime, who's in the chat? Daryl Williams, salutations. And Gia is here. Let's go, Brady. Okay. And Mo Weed is here. Um, who else? I saw somebody, David DeBow is here. So it would be cool if YouTube let us hype live streams instead of trying to remember to come back to them. Or if I just started streaming at a set time and always was on time, you wouldn't have to remember, right? Mythos Boy, what's up? Answers the question, does Jesus deserve our faith? Mythos Boy says, maybe. Depends on how the rest of my afternoon goes. What's up, y'all? Come on into the chat and greet somebody in Reason's name. Indeed, as we get ready to dive in. For sure. If you're not a Patreon supporter and you'd like to show some love, you can do that by clicking the link in the description of the video. Or if you say, you know what, I'd love to support, but I just don't have it right now, you know what you can do? Like the video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Copy the link and share it with somebody. Say, hey, let's talk about this later. And that's one way you can support the channel. I would appreciate any kind of love that you show. And since David DeBow mentioned it, you can hype the videos on this channel. Hyping the videos helps give it more notoriety. So if you're able to do that, would appreciate it. Noon is in the chat. What's up, Noon? Says, hello, friends. And Fela Best, sorry if I'm butchering it, says, be good. What up, bro? Houston, Texas. Yeah. Houston in the house. All right. So I'm going to throw the link in the chat again. But if you don't see it or if you don't know what to look for, just scroll all the way up. The top comment on YouTube is going to be the link to call in. And let me go put it on Facebook now. And if you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio. Just go to my bio where it says, why does Jesus deserve our faith? Click that link and you'll be able to call into the show. All right. So let's see here. And for those who are not familiar with how this goes, this is a call-in show. I typically would like to talk to theists, particularly Christian theists, because I was a Christian and I get the question all the time, how come you don't go hard on Islam? How come you don't go hard on da-da-da-da-da? Well, if I knew those other religions like I knew Christianity, I would go hard on them as well. I think they're equally as false as Christianity. I just don't know the ins and outs of them, so I can't I can't deconstruct them the way that I can deconstruct Christianity. But if you presented me with an argument for Islam or some other faith, I would ask the same questions that I ask about Christianity. And I would imagine that the theist of some other stripe would be just as unable to answer certain questions. And they would have to resort to things like faith and resort to things like, oh, well, so-and-so said this, anecdotes and stories and subjective experiences. People from different religions have different subjective experiences, and they all will attribute it to different gods. Sometimes they'll have very similar experiences. God saved me from a car crash. Allah did this. This other deity did that. And you'll find somebody from a different religion and their God's doing the same thing your God's doing. So what? Are the gods in cahoots? Is one of your gods moonlighting as another god? What's going on? But either way, whatever your religion is, I don't think that any of these religions deserve our faith. So even if you're not a Christian and you're like, maybe Jesus doesn't deserve our faith, but da-da-da does, and you bring some other god, Vishnu does, I would want to understand why you think Vishnu, or why you think any deity that somebody had to tell you about. Like, show me the deity that nobody has to tell us about. The deity that will tell us about itself. And you might say, but I had a vision and the God came to me. Wasn't that the God telling me about itself? So I'm going to ask several things of you that will kind of tease out where I'm going with why I think, I don't think that deserves your faith. But I am particularly concerned with the Christian God because, like I said, I know Christianity. I know how to deconstruct Christianity. I know it like the back of my hand. It was the air that I breathed, the water that I swam in. And it's not just because I know it so well that I'm here to deconstruct it. It's because I think Christianity is the religion that right now in my neck of the woods, maybe if I was in the Middle East somewhere, Islam would be the religion that needs the deconstruction because look at what it's doing to us. But here where I'm at, Christianity is the religion that people are using to inflict harm on others. If you know anything about the Hebrew Bible that Christians call the Old Testament, they look in passages like Isaiah and they see some Israelite author looking around at what's going on, and they see the ruler Cyrus, the Persian ruler Cyrus, is coming in and he's rescuing, he's really not rescuing anybody as much as he's taking over Babylon. And since the Jews are captives there, Cyrus says, hey, guess what? Y'all can go home. I don't even care. Go back home. Worship wherever y'all want to go home. Some Israelite authors saw that and said, guess what? Guess what? The reason why Cyrus is letting us go home is because our God made him let us go. And so they co-opted human history and made it a success story for their God, when before Cyrus, they were languishing under the rule of some other people, and they were just sitting the same there. When is our God going to rescue? Why is this happening to us? And some of their other authors and artists and scholars and priests, they had told stories. The reason why we're in bondage, the reason why we've been carried away into captivity is because we didn't obey our God. So you already got these, this ideology, these stories being told to explain why are we in this position? Oh, we failed our God and let this happen. Then Cyrus comes, y'all can go home, and then they co-opt that story. Oh, guess what? The same God who let us get in bondage, well, now he's the one that moved on Cyrus's heart to let us go home. You fast forward to where we are today, and you've got Christians in America saying, just like the God of the Bible used Cyrus to free Israel from Babylon, well, guess what? God is going to use the secular ruler Trump to free us from, and then they come up with the boogeyman, liberalism or communism or socialism or whatever it is. God's going to use Trump, the LGBTQ plus, whatever it is, atheism. God's going to use Trump like Cyrus. And so you've got Christians signing up to support somebody who they know this person is, if there was anybody who was a prototype of an antichrist, it's this guy. but because he's choosing the side with your religion, you're willing to co-opt him and say, hey, this is the modern day Cyrus that God is going to use. And so if I could help someone out there who's a Christian, a Bible believing Christian, say, maybe I need to pump the brakes on believing the Bible because, man, this thing is chopped. Like, my gosh, if I could help you loosen your grip on the Bible, then maybe you could stop supporting the Antichrist, who is Donald Trump. So I've got my reasons. I've got other reasons too, but I do have a call. And before I lose the call, I want to get to the call. So let me bring in Emmaus. Am I saying Emmaus? Emmaus. Let's say Emmaus. But you correct me if I'm wrong. Emmaus, what's good?
What's up? Can you hear me?
I definitely can. What's happening with you?
Your question is, does Jesus deserve our faith?
Well, hold on. Before you dive in, because we all need to know who we're talking with. Where are you at with the God question? Are you atheist, agnostic, theist?
Theist.
You're a theist. And are you a theist of any particular stripe?
I'm a Christian.
Okay. And last question, is the Bible God's word to you?
Yeah.
Okay, I lied because I'm an atheist. We do that. One more question. Is the Bible God's inerrant and infallible word, or is it like it's God's word, but it could have some things in it that aren't true?
Inerrant, infallible.
Okay, yes. Thank you. I'm done with my questions. You asked me about the prompt. Does Jesus deserve our faith? Yes, that is the prompt for today. I'm willing to say Jesus does not deserve our faith, but since you do, the question for you is, why does Jesus deserve our faith?
I think you're presuming that I have the mentality that Jesus deserves our faith, and I don't have that mentality.
I'm not presuming anything. I just have a prompt question you called in. So are you calling to say my prompt just doesn't apply to you? Because I'm not presuming it. I'm asking it for anybody who would say he does. If you don't think he does, then maybe it doesn't apply to you. But you're saying you don't think Jesus deserves our faith.
No, because Hebrews 12:2 says that Jesus is the author and perfecter of our faith. So he gives us the faith. It's not whether or not he deserves it. He preordains and decides who's going to have faith, and then he gives them the faith. Faith isn't even something that we come up with or conjure up or decide to have on our own. It's what God actually gives us to give us the ability to come to Jesus, because Jesus said nobody can come to the Father unless nobody can come to me unless the Father draw him.
So question for you. Help me say your name correctly, because there's three ways I'm saying it in my head. How do you say your name?
Emmaus.
Emmaus. Okay. Emmaus, even before God gets involved, can I have faith in anything? Like, can I have faith that my parents are who they say they are? Like, I didn't get swapped at birth. Can I have faith in that?
No.
I can't have faith that I'm my parents' child?
You can't have faith in anything that humans do or say. You can have faith in a chair to hold you up. You could have faith that...
Wait. So you're saying, you're basically saying because humans are untrustworthy. So I'm just asking you, is it humanly possible to put faith in the claim that the people whose names are on my birth certificate are actually my biological parents before I do a DNA test? Is it humanly possible to put faith in that claim?
Let me think. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You need evidence that your parents are your parents. So if you
don't need evidence, no, because you just said faith is. Emmaus, you just said faith is the evidence. So I don't need evidence if faith is my evidence. Faith is I'm willing to accept or trust that claim. Your Bible says the fact that I'm willing to accept the claim is the evidence that the claim is true. But before we get there, hold on, we can go back to that in a second. I'm just asking you a question. Is it humanly possible? Because you said I could put faith in a chair that a chair is going to hold me up. You said that, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I did.
So even if I'm going to leave the parent analogy because that didn't seem to land, I'll go with the analogy that you gave, or maybe not analogy, just the statement that you made, that I can have faith in a chair to hold me up. So my question to you, this is the point that I was trying to get at, is does the faith that I put in a chair to hold me up, does that come from God?
The faith that you have in a chair to hold you up,
Yeah,
does
does
that
that come
come
from
from
God?
God?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think all things come from God, but
But
the
you just made a
ability,
statement a
the
minute ago based on
ability,
Hebrews 12.
the
You made a
ability,
statement.
the ability,
But
the ability to reason, the ability to reason and to come to the conclusion that I believe this chair is going to hold me up. The cognitive ability and the reasoning comes from God, but the person has the will to decide whether or not they actually believe the chair is going to hold them up. But the chair might not hold them up and it might break. So hold on. So hold up. So their faith didn't actually have substance. But the faith that we have in Jesus has substance because
Emmaus,
he's a
do you
man.
understand why I asked you these questions?
Well, he's a man that lived and he's a man that died and was
You're
written
not,
about by.
Emmaus, I'm gonna need you to answer my questions so that we can have a good conversation. Do you understand why I asked you the question about my parents' name on my birth certificates, or even your statement about the chair? Do you understand why I'm asking you that? Like, why do you think I'm asking you that?
Before I answer,
Mm-hmm.
the reason I didn't accept the parent one is
I don't. I
because
want to get off that. I want to get off that. That doesn't even matter. Why do you think I'm asking you the questions about the does the faith that I put in the chair to hold me up, does that come from God? Why do you think I asked you that?
I don't know.
Okay. You said, based on Hebrews 12:2,
Uh-huh.
that God gives us the faith to believe in Jesus. So it's not about him deserving our faith. He's giving us the faith that we are actually placing in him. And what I'm
Uh-huh.
asking you is, if I can have faith in a myriad of other things, are you saying that my faith in Jesus has to come from him, but my faith in other things, I can come up with that on my own? You talked about my reasoning capabilities and all
Amen.
that.
That's true. Amen.
Okay,
Yes,
so hold on,
because
wait,
because the Bible.
wait, Emmaus, let me make it clear. My question is, are you saying that all faith, even the faith that this water is going to not kill me, is that faith from Jesus too, or is only the faith that I place in him faith that comes from him?
The latter of what you said, because the Bible says when it comes to predestination, election, and all of that, it only has to do with salvation. It only has to do with who. It only has to do with salvation. Babe, I didn't want him to know who I really was.
Oh, I didn't know who you really were until just now. Yo, because when she walked in, I thought to myself, she kind of, and now, hold on, y'all. Hold on. This is a treat, y'all.
Like, get out of here.
Yo, this is a treat. If you follow me on Facebook, you often see comments from the name. What is her name on Facebook? Is it Tori?
Tory Mack.
Tori Mack. And then sometimes you'll see me dealing harshly with Tori Mack, and you might be like, yo, why is he going ham on this woman just comment on his post? Because about 80% of the time, the comments on my Facebook are not coming from Tori Mack. They're coming from Emmaus, who is Tori's husband. I won't give your government name since you don't have it on the screen, but and I think I blocked you maybe about 3 years ago or something like that. I didn't know who you were until just now. Okay, it's good to actually speak. I told her I thought about unblocking a bunch of people recently, but it's good to actually talk to you, just to hear the tone that's coming from you, and I could put this tone in the comments that I get on Facebook. I'm sorry. So you're saying, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to say, I believe that the faith that I'm speaking about, the
Mm-hmm.
predestined, elected, those who are predestined and elected, God is the one who gives people that faith to come to Jesus. It doesn't
I
mean
hear
that,
you.
yeah, it doesn't mean that every faith we have, like in the water
So
bottle and all that.
but if I can place my like I can actually come up with faith on my own for for water, for sitting in chairs, for whose names are on my birth. I can come up with faith for a bunch of things on my own, right? Why can't I use the same process by which I decide that claim is trustworthy, that claim is not? This water bottle company, when I was in Alabama for my grandmother's funeral this past weekend, I stopped at a gas station. I got a bottle of water called, you'll like this as a Christian, it was called Eternity Water, right? And the guy at the gas station was trying to sell me. I said, hey, I see the purified water, I see the Aquafinas and the Gatorade water. Y'all have any spring water? He said, oh yeah, right there, Eternity Water. I said, I never heard of this brand of spring water before. And then he went back behind the counter and showed me that he was even drinking it. Like, yeah, no, it's good. It's good. He was trying to convince me that Eternity Water was good. And I purchased it and I eventually drank it. But I had to use my process of deduction. And okay, he seemed to have, I don't know if I never saw him take a drink. He showed me a half drunk bottle. So I guess I had to use all these things to decide whether I'm going to put faith in the claim that Eternity Water is drinkable and it's not going to kill me. And I can do that with a myriad of things. But you're saying, however, when it comes to God claims and Jesus claims, I can't use the faith that I use to get me by in a million other situations in life and that have served me well thus far. I can't use that. I need a special created faith that comes from heaven to use that kind of faith for Jesus. Why can't I use my normal faith that gets me by in everything else? Why can't I use that to believe in Jesus?
Because it's called regeneration and being born again. There's prophecies in Isaiah that Jesus also talks about, that God has hardened the hearts of these people. He's made it so their eyes can't see, their ears can't hear, and their hearts can't receive, because after the fall, everybody is dead in sin. They're not able to come.
Wait,
Hold on.
wait.
No. They cannot come alive by themselves until God brings them to life. That's why their ears can't hear, their eyes can't see, and their
So
hearts are
hold
hard
on.
until
I know as a
God
Calvinist, you probably,
until
as a
God
Calvinist,
removes.
wait. As a Calvinist, you probably have no problem with this, but I just want listeners to understand what you're saying. Because people are fallen, right? They're in a condition that is not ideal for God. He doesn't like it. They're fallen. And because they're falling, what you're saying is you're using the Isaiah passage out of context, I believe. But either way, you're saying God is on top of the fallenness. God has added an extra hardening of the heart, a closing of the ears, a blinding of the eye. Why does God need to do all that if they're already fallen? Why make it harder for people to believe? Like, hold on, wait, think about it. They're fallen already. And what you're willing to believe and say to me is not only are they fallen, but God has made in their fallenness, God has made it extra hard for them to believe, so that if they're going to believe, they're going to need a special gift from heaven, a gift of faith. Why go through all that? If they're fallen, why not just give them something to believe and say, hey, use the powers that you already have to deduce and induct and believe? Why blind them and close their ears and harden their hearts if they're fallen already? What's the point of that?
I'm gonna answer your question, but I want to ask you, why would you use terms like out of context if you don't actually believe the Bible?
Well, because I know how to read, and just in reading, I know that there's context for texts. Every text has a context, and if you take something out of Isaiah, and like the New Testament does all the time, and try to apply it to Jesus and the church, you're going to be out of context, because that's not what Isaiah was talking about.
No, Jesus himself, who is the Word of God, as it says in John 1:1, Jesus is the Word of God. So anything in the Old Testament is always pointing to Jesus. That's why Jesus always takes Old Testament scripture, applies it to himself. I know you want to cut me off. I knew you wanted to cut me off.
No. It's not that.
Hold up. But Jesus told the Pharisees You study the scriptures and you know them well, but you don't really know them because they testify of me. Jesus took the passage that you're saying I used out of context and applied it to himself,
Okay,
saying,
so
y'all,
Emmaus,
y'all got
Emmaus.
hard.
So hold on. Here's what's going to happen. So I'm going to listen. I unmuted you. So at this point, I am going to start muting you from time to time, because when I cut you off, it's not because I don't want you to make your point. It's because you said something that if I let you keep going, like the thing you just said needs to be challenged on its face at that moment. And that's why I
Okay.
stopped you. It's not, I'm going to let you continue. But even when you say Jesus himself said da 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 da, my question to you is, so can anybody just come along and say, hey, you know those verses in the Hebrew Bible? Guess who they were speaking of? Me. Can anybody do that?
No, God can.
Okay, so wait, what qualifies Jesus to do that?
Virgin birth, perfection when
Emmaus,
he lived. Hold on.
Emmaus.
Virgin.
No,
I got
because
a bunch
you're
more. I
saying
got a
things.
bunch
You're no,
more
no,
though,
but wait, why? I can't let you say the bunch more. I'd like to challenge each one. How do you know that Jesus was born of a virgin?
because it was prophesied and he fulfilled
Emmaus,
it.
Emmaus. First of all, the prophecy in Isaiah about a woman, a virgin having a child, it was not a prophecy about a woman who was not pregnant getting pregnant. That's not what the verse. You need to go back to the
Yeah,
passage.
it
And
can
I
be translated virgin or young lady.
no,
I
no, no,
know.
no, 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 no. You don't know what I'm saying, because that's not what I was saying. What I'm saying is, if you look at the passage in the context, Isaiah says to the king, see this woman here? This woman is going to have a child. And before the time the child is able to know good from evil, the thing that I'm telling you is going to happen. That's what Isaiah was saying. It had nothing to do with a virgin birth hundreds of years later. Everything Christians say about Isaiah is taken way out of context. But my question to you is, even if that passage in Isaiah was prophetic, how do you know that Jesus was actually born of a virgin?
Right. Before I answer that, what about the other prophecy from Micah
No,
that
I don't want
that
to go to the
that
other
talks
prophecies. I
about
want to deal with this one.
Jesus coming out of
We,
Bethlehem?
Emmaus, trust me, I love you, bro. I don't know if we've ever met face to face. Have we?
Yeah, you said I look like fish.
For those who are watching, not like the animal fish, our old DJ official. Okay, Emmaus, look, I love you, bro. Everything that you're saying about these prophecies, whether it be from Isaiah or Micah, or all of them are extremely out of context. And I would love to sit with you just not to try to convince you, but just to show you what the context is saying, and then let you do with that whatever you will. But rather, before we go to Micah or anything else, in Isaiah, even if we were to take the Isaiah prophecy, that's not really a prophecy about a future virgin, even if it was, though, my question to you is, how do you, Emmaus, here in 2026, know that Jesus was actually born of a virgin? Even if there was a prophecy saying that would happen, how do you know that that happened to Jesus?
How do I know Jesus was born of a virgin?
Yes.
Because of all the witnesses who all the witnesses who wrote the witnesses who wrote about it, the prophecies in
What
the Old
witnesses?
Testament.
What? Oh, no. What witnesses? See, I'm stopping you because I want to deal with each
Yeah.
thing you say, not a whole bunch
Uh-huh.
of things. What
Yeah.
witnesses witnessed the virgin birth? How many people in the New Testament talk about Jesus having a virgin birth? Because you said witnesses, plural.
Uh-huh. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul.
Mark does not mention anything about a virgin birth. John does not mention anything about a virgin birth. No, you get those in Matthew and Luke. Mark says nothing about Jesus's birth. How does Luke and Matthew know anything about Jesus's virgin birth? Were they there?
Jesus
Can
told
they
them.
have been witnesses? I mean, maybe he did, but all I'm saying is, would you at least admit that you cannot really verify? You take it by faith, maybe the faith that God gave you from above, but you can't verify that Jesus was born of a virgin. True?
Mm. Can I verify it?
Yes.
Does Josephus talk about it?
No.
Josephus don't mention it.
No. All Josephus mentions is that there are Christians, and here are some of the things that Christians believe, and then some of the things that are reported to be from Josephus. Most scholars will say that that's a Christian interpolation. They're putting a little seasoning on what Josephus actually said.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know Joseph didn't do anything with her, so
How do you know? How do you don't know, right? You're taking it by faith.
yeah, I mean, if there's a God, what would be so hard about him?
Nothing. But the question is that the
Yeah.
case? And what I'm asking you is, I ask you, why does Jesus deserve like our faith? You're saying he gives it to us. And I'm saying, how do you know that this Jesus is doing anything? You said well, the real question, I'm sorry, because I got lost in the conversation. My real question was, can anybody just come along and say, hey, all that stuff in the Old Testament was talking about me? And you said no. I said, why does Jesus get to do it? You said because he was born of a virgin. And my question is, how do you know that that's even the case? You kind of don't, but you're letting him do all these things with the Old Testament that you're saying the only reason why he could do it is because he fulfilled these passages that you don't even know he actually fulfilled.
There's a lot of qualifications that he has beyond virgin birth, though.
Right, but I'm just saying, if all of them were as flimsy as what I just did with the virgin birth, wouldn't you say like, maybe I need to slow down a little bit before I
don't
trust
think you.
him?
I don't think you made it flimsy because it's your interpretation based on things that you've read that those prophecies aren't
No.
about Jesus.
No.
Yeah,
Can we go back to
Jude
can we go to the prophecy right
Jude.
now? Can we go to the Isaiah passage right now about the virgin birth? Can we do that and just see if it seems like it could be talking about Jesus? Can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for those in the chat, y'all know how we do. If you're not feeling the combo, you can throw your red flags, but I haven't seen any red flags so far. So we're going to keep rocking out. And I see I got a super chat, 2 super chats, which I will get to. Hey, man, it's good to talk to you, to be honest. Like, most of the people that I suspended, I guess, from getting at me on Facebook, it's only because I'm curious. I'm just curious. Why do you think I blocked you?
I mean, I hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I was being intentionally inflammatory with you.
Okay. Some people go around saying I blocked them because I couldn't take the heat or they was cooking me and whatever. I'm curious what people say.
I was being intentionally inflammatory and asking for a blocking.
Okay. But I really do have a heart to. Mm-hmm.
I mentioned your sickness with the sweating thing and saying that's why you left the faith, and you were like, whoa, buddy, you took it too far. And Victoria told me I was taking it too far before I did it.
Okay. And you still did it.
Yeah.
Why? I'm just curious.
I be trying different tactics to see if I can get you to come back.
I respect that, because that's sort of what I wrote a song called Triangles, right? I'm just trying different angles to get you to consider this thing I want you to consider. And even when I'm on Facebook today, I'm always trying different angles. I put up a post early this morning. I saw it wasn't going to go the way I wanted, so I deleted it. I'm always trying different angles, so I respect that. I'm not offended, but I think it was just so much, and I saw the conversations weren't really going anywhere. You weren't winning me. I wasn't winning you. And I'm like, I'm about peace at this point in my life. And so I'm like, yo, this is stressful. Let me just cut this off. That's the only reason why I blocked you.
Yeah, that's all right.
So Isaiah 7, you're probably already there, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm reading from the NET. You mind that?
That's fine.
I like the NET because it just has very good scholarly footnotes. A lot of times I'll say something and somebody asks me like, where do you get that from? A lot of times the stuff that I'm saying, if you go to the NET and look in the footnotes, they'll tell you this verse can also be translated this way, or it's translated this way here because of this kind of thing. So anyway, I'm reading from the NET. Verse 1. During the reign of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, king of Rezin, During the reign of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, king Rezin King Rezin of Syria, and King Pekah of Remaliah of Israel, they all got together and marched up to Jerusalem to do battle. But they were unable to prevail against it. So all these kings get together, they go up to Jerusalem, they can't prevail. All right. It was reported to the family of David, Syria has aligned with Ephraim. You may have different names in your Bible, because sometimes these same places can be called by different names. But if you have different names, it's not really the point, so it's okay. Syria has allied with Ephraim. They and their people were emotionally shaken, just as the trees of the forest shake before the wind. So the Lord told Isaiah, go out with your son, Shear-Jashub, and meet Ahaz at the end of the conduit of the upper pool that is located on the road to the field where they wash and dry clothes. So he says, go up there, take your son, go to this field where they wash clothes at. And then tell Ahaz, make sure you stay calm. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated by these two stubs of smoking logs, talking about the king, these kings that are coming against him, or by the raging anger of Rezin, Syria, and the son of Remaliah. Syria has plotted with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah to bring about your demise. They say, let's attack Judah, terrorize it, conquer it. Then we'll set up the son of Tabeel as its king. For this reason, the sovereign Lord says, so this is the Lord telling Isaiah what to say to Ahaz. For this reason, the sovereign Lord says, it will not take place. Don't worry, Ahaz. You don't have to be concerned. It will not happen. For Syria's leader is Damascus, and the leader of Damascus is Rezin. Within 65 years, Ephraim will no longer exist as a nation. Ephraim's leader, so far, do you think this has anything to do with Jesus?
Let me see. 1 second. What verse are you in?
Verse 8. Verse 8.
Verse 8. Okay. Just go out, son of Judah, say to him, be careful, keep calm, do not lose heart, because it's too small to these stubs. Let's tear it apart. And no.
Okay.
No.
Not yet, right? But maybe we're getting there. Within 65 years, Ephraim will no longer exist as a nation. Ephraim's leader is Samaria, and Samaria's leader is the son of Remaliah. If your faith does not remain firm, then you will not remain secure. So God's telling Isaiah, go tell Ahaz, chill, don't sweat it. God, they're not even going to be nations after a while, but you got to believe, okay? Because this is going to happen. If you don't believe, though, you're not going to remain firm. Isaiah is trying to comfort Ahaz, but God has given him these words. Verse 10, the Lord spoke again to Ahaz. The Lord again spoke to Ahaz. Ask for a sign ask for a confirming sign from the Lord your God. You can even ask for something miraculous. So Isaiah is now speaking to Ahaz, saying, hey, ask for a sign if you don't believe. I want you to be secure and know you don't have to worry about these kings coming against you. You can even ask for a miraculous sign.
Okay.
All right. Verse 12. But Ahaz responded, I don't want to ask. I don't want to put the Lord to a test. Verse 13. We're getting close to the one that Christians grab on. So Isaiah replied, pay attention, family of David. Do you consider it too insignificant to try the patience of men? Is that why you are also trying the patience of my God? Now here comes the famed verse 14. For this reason, the Lord himself will give you a confirming sign. Look, this young woman is about to conceive. Does it say she's a virgin who never had sex? Doesn't say anything like that. It says, look, this young woman is about to conceive and will give birth to a son. You, young woman, will name him Emmanuel. Why is he naming the child Emmanuel? You know why? Because Ahaz needs comfort to know that God is going to be with them when these kings come to invade them. So name this child Emmanuel. Whose child? The child of the woman that he's pointing to. Look, this woman right here is going to have a son. Call him Emmanuel, because that's the sign that God's going to be with us, or with you, Ahaz. I'm finishing up right here. Verse 14, you, young woman, will name him Emmanuel. Does it sound like he's talking to Mary here?
See, and the virgin will conceive and give birth, and will call him Emmanuel. Does it sound like he's talking to Mary?
Yeah. Hundreds of years in the future?
No, he's talking to Ahaz.
No. Right now, he's turned his attention from Ahaz to the young woman who's, remember, God told him, go up to this field where the women are washing clothes, and there you're going to meet Ahaz, and you're going to tell him all these things. He tells Ahaz all these things and then says to Ahaz, you can even ask for a sign so that you can know God's going to be with you and you don't have to fear these kings. Ahaz says, I'm not going to ask for a sign. Then God says through Isaiah, okay, since you wouldn't ask for a sign, I'm going to give you a sign. And he turns
Isaiah's
to the young woman and says,
Israel.
No.
Why are you saying that Isaiah? Why are you saying Isaiah is talking to a young woman?
Well, hold on. He's talking to Ahaz about asking for a sign. Ahaz refuses to ask for a sign. And then Isaiah, so that's why I'm reading from the NET version. It breaks it down a little bit more. Your version probably just says the young woman will be with child, right? Can you read verse?
It says the virgin will conceive.
What version? What version is he talking about?
ESV.
Okay, what version is he talking about?
Version, I believe it's a dual prophecy.
Before you get to the dual, what's the first one he's talking about? We'll talk about the dual later, but who's the first version he's talking about?
I don't know.
That's the problem. If without knowing who he's talking about, it's going to be easy to say, oh, he must be talking about Mary in the future. But no, he's directing Ahaz's attention to a woman who is there washing clothes in the field. And he says, this young woman, she's going to get pregnant. She is with child. And she's going to give birth. And then he says to the young woman, call your child's name Emmanuel, meaning God with us. This is a sign to Ahaz. Name your child in a way that's going to be a sign to Ahaz that God is with us. That's what the context is here. So maybe you could say, oh, it's a dual meaning. It's talking to this woman about her child and Mary in the future. But before you get to Mary in the future, you really need to understand what he's saying to them at that time. Would you agree?
Yeah, but my version doesn't say anything about a woman washing clothes, though.
So you got to go back to verse verse 3.
Okay.
What does the ESV say in verse 3?
Go out with your son, share Jashub, and meet Ahaz at the end of the conduit of the upper pool that is located on the road to the field where they wash and dry clothes.
Who's he talking to?
The Lord is talking to Isaiah and telling him to go meet Ahaz.
Meet him where?
Where the people wash clothes.
Okay, so now you go down to where we were just at. Verse 14. For this reason, the Lord himself will give you a confirming sign. Your ESV probably reads it a little different. What does it say?
Let me see. I was reading from the NET, but the ESV says, therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel.
Even if we don't take the NET version, which says the NET says, look, this young woman is about to conceive. All right. But even if we don't take the look, this young woman, even if we kept it general, the young virgin or the young woman will conceive a child. Even if we kept it like that, how would Mary in the future be a sign to Ahaz that God is going to be with them? She couldn't be, right? Ahaz would be dead by then, right?
It has more to do of a prophecy for Israel.
Yes, it's a prophecy for Judah, actually, the kingdom of Judah, that they're not going to be taken over by these kings that are coming against them. And God's giving the king of Judah, Ahaz, a sign And he says, this young woman, or look, the virgin's going to have a child and she's going to call him Emmanuel. That's going to be your sign that God is with us. So even if you say there's a dual meaning, the Mary thing, that has nothing to do with this passage in the original context. Mary would have been born way too late to be assigned to Ahaz. Would you agree?
Not necessarily, because the Old Testament is all about faith, just like with Abraham when God said, look at the stars and your descendants. Like, it doesn't have to be something that they see or know about in their lifetime.
So how would Mary giving birth to as a virgin giving birth to the Son of God, how would that be a sign to Ahaz that he can rest assured that these kings who are marching against him are not going to succeed? How would that work?
Well, that's a good question, because it also says that two kingdoms would be destroyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was 700 years before Jesus, right?
Where
Where it says, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid. For before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. So in that sense, it couldn't be talking about Jesus either, because Jesus was not a boy when the two kings were laid waste, right?
Right.
How come you didn't tell me that part? You were getting to it?
I was getting to it, yeah. Step by step. I'm just trying to get you to see that this passage, in its original context, it can't be about something that's going to happen hundreds of years after, because God wants to give Ahaz a sign at that time that they're going to be okay when these kings march on them.
I feel like the Bible oftentimes with its prophecies does it like that intentionally in a dual way, where it can seem like it's talking about David, like when it says to David, like, ask of me and I will give you the kingdoms as your inheritance. Kiss the Son lest he be angry is about David, but also about Jesus. Like, why can't it be dual?
It could be. The question is, why would it be? Like I said a minute ago, you said you let Jesus do all these untoward things with the Hebrew Bible because the prophecies spoke of him. But then when we go back to the prophecies that you say spoke of him, you've got to make them dual prophecies for them to even apply to him. So it's almost like you're using Jesus fulfilling prophecy to let him butcher the Hebrew Bible, but you've got to butcher the Hebrew Bible to get him to fulfill the prophecy. So it's a circular thing that's going on here.
So if this is a dual prophecy about a boy born back at that time before the two kings were defeated, who was the boy? Is there scholarly info about who the boy was?
The boy is the son of this woman who's nearby. He says, behold, the woman is going to conceive a child. She's going to call him Emmanuel. Hint, hint, God's going to be with us. And before the child is old enough to know good from evil, the kings that you're worried about are going to be dead. The woman doesn't even need to be anybody that we know. It's just something for Ahaz. Ahaz looks and says, okay, so if she actually does have a child, and it really, I don't even know how it's actually a sign, because all Ahaz has to do is keep living, and it's going to happen if God's true to his word. Ahaz has to do two things. I'm sorry. Ahaz has to keep living, and he has to believe, because the passage says, if you don't believe, then these kings are not going to die. They are going to be successful against you.
Historically, it doesn't matter who this boy was.
The boy is insignificant. The only thing that matters about the boy is the woman had him, and she names him appropriately to remind Ahaz, look, as long as you see this kid, just know before he's old enough to know good from evil, God's going to keep his promise. That's the only purpose of the woman and the boy.
Okay. What do you do with Isaiah 53?
Much more. Oh, look, I don't want to go into it now because we've been on here for a while, but I will say every single time somebody in the New Testament says this Old Testament passage spoke of Jesus, it deconstructs the same way that I just deconstructed this passage, you have to make it a dual thing to make it have any kind of idea of Jesus, because it had an original meaning that made sense in the context. The dual meaning doesn't even make sense. It's just like, let me make this apply to Jesus and that apply to Jesus.
But if you
Every
don't believe,
single time.
if you don't believe in God, why do you care if you don't believe in God, why do you care if it was written for a king to find peace in a prophet saint? Why do you care? Like, if you don't believe in
I
God?
care because I want to live in a world where not just myself, but the people who are co-creators in this world with me. I want to live in a world where people are believing as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible. And I stole that from Matt Dillahunty with no shame, because I just think that's a great way. If we got people walking around living according to many false things, we're going to have many missteps. And I want to live in a world where we're dealing with true things, as true as we can know them to be. I think we get a better world and a better experience that way.
Yeah. I still think it's about Jesus, but
That's all good.
I knew it. I knew about the young woman thing. I don't think I understood that Isaiah was pointing at a woman right there, though. Yeah.
And here's the thing. The reason why Luke is able to say the virgin will be with child and he didn't mistranslate it. The Septuagint mistranslated it because they didn't know Hebrew like that. And so they saw the word and they just said, oh, this term must mean virgin. And so Luke, looking for ways to prop up Jesus, notice Mark didn't do it, but Luke, looking for ways to prop up Jesus, said, I got to find some kind of way to make my Jesus more. And he saw a virgin with a child, and he just took that verse and applied it to Jesus. But that's not what the Hebrew Bible makes it much more clear. This is not a virgin. This is a young woman. So, I mean, there's layers to the misunderstanding of a lot of these passages. And like I said, Isaiah 53 is a fun one to spend time in, just to see what it's really talking about. All the servant songs of Isaiah, they're not talking about anything future. Matter of fact, I got a couple of the calls that I want to get to, but let's do this again. Many of the passages in Isaiah, especially Isaiah 50 to 53, go back to Isaiah 41. It says that Israel has paid for their sins already. And Isaiah 53 says these things have happened to the servant already. Not these things are going to happen to the servant. It's not about a future, somebody who's chastised for our iniquity. It's about somebody who's already been chastised for our iniquity. It's the nation of Israel who's already said, Isaiah 41, I think it is, says you've paid for your sins doubly, 2 times over. So by the time you get to Isaiah 53, it's saying that the nation or a generation of the nation or a remnant of the nation has been chastised for our iniquity. It's already happened. It's not a future thing. Everything, I'm telling you, bro, all of the passages that I used to champion as a believer, spend time in the text and you realize like, yo, they did a number on us. They butchered this thing to prop up Jesus. And I think it's the foulest thing ever. I was in seminary when I realized like, yo, what we've been doing as Christians to the Hebrew Bible is unethical. And I was ashamed.
I don't think so, man.
I know. But let's talk again sometime, man. I'm glad we got a chance to reconnect, yo. Because I really was trying to understand what was your heart in the way that you were coming at me. People see my comments sometimes to think I'm being nasty and rude. My heart is this. My heart is dialogue. Even if my prompt seems a little like Jabby and Barbie, my heart is dialogue and understanding. And so the fact that you're not on here breathing fire at me helps me understand how you were approaching me, back in the day. So I'm glad we got a chance to connect here.
Yeah. Genesis 3:15, the seed of the woman.
All of them, bro. All the passages. We can spend time in every single one. And I think there's room to see. But thanks for calling, bro. I really do appreciate you calling in and reconnecting.
All right, bro.
Yeah, get with you. Hey, sorry if that call went long, but like I said, me and that brother had a history of of sparring on Facebook, and it was just good to kind of put some meat to that conversation. Let me look at a couple of these super chats real quick. David DeBow, what's up, man? Thank you for the $5 super chat. Emmaus, did you by chance hang out on CHH message boards like Sphere of Hip Hop in the 2000s? If so, hi from Issachar. I'm pretty sure, David, that was him. Quite sure. Mythos Boy, hey, thank you for the 333 super chat. We talking heart calluses for 95% of humans. 99%. I'm sorry, I probably should have got to that comment. Oh, because he talked about God hardening the hearts of people. Yeah, let me go back to the comment. Yeah, so all these fallen people, I think that's a good question to ask too, though. Like you said, we're fallen, and the reason why we can't just use our normal processes to develop faith in a claim is because we're fallen, but we're not just fallen. God adds an intentional, additional hardening of the heart, closing of the ears, blinding of the eyes. Why add that on top of people who are already fallen? It's like you're determined to make sure that they don't see. Like, what is that about? But these are the kind of ideas you have to get comfortable with if you're going to believe something like a Bible. All right, I got another caller. Caller, you're in here twice. I don't know how that happened. I'm going to bring in the second one of these. I'm not sure if this is which one of these will get you in, but let's see. Wes, what's good? All right, I'm going to remove that one and bring the other one in. Let me see. Wes, can you hear me? I'm going to bring both of them in. Up, and then you disappeared. All right, so the line is open. I'll put the link in the chat again, just in case you need it from me. If you're on Facebook, scroll all the way up. Did I put the link on Facebook? I said I was doing it. Did I pin it? Is the question. Let me see. All right. So it's pinned on Facebook now. And if you're on Instagram, just scroll all the way up and you'll see the link. So the line is open. In the meantime, I'll be back on tomorrow for a call-in show. I think I'm not going to do exit strategy this Thursday because this Saturday I'm going to be back on doing a conversation. No, I don't know. I may not do exit strategy because I'm trying to be on 3 days a week. And that way I have the rest of my time to just live a life. But if I'm doing this Saturday, I'm doing a Conversations with Christians episode with the apologist, Derek Cologne. That'll be Saturday, I think at, what time did we say? I'll figure out what time it is and I'll let you know. But because I'm doing today, tomorrow, and Saturday, I might not do this Thursday, but I may want to jump on and do an episode that is more geared toward deconstruction, since I'm doing all these Conversations with Christians today, tomorrow, and then Saturday. So Thursday, I may be back on just to do something that's more deconstruction oriented, but I might not because I do want to live a life here. So I'll let you guys know about that. But Saturday, be on the lookout for that episode. That's going to be a good conversation. He got my book. I think I sent it to him. And he's been reading through it. So we're going to start going through my book. He is a fundamentalist, takes the Bible as literally as possible. And like I said to him last time he called into the show, my aim is to pry his hands off of biblical literalism. And if I can just do that, even if he doesn't say, I need to rethink my entire belief system, he at least will say, okay, then maybe I can stop talking about the Bible as if it's woodenly literal, I should say. So that'll be part of my goal on Saturday. All right. The line is open. If you are a theist and you would like to tell me why Jesus deserves our faith. I don't think Jesus deserves our faith. Partially for some of the reasons that I just was talking about with Emmaus a minute ago. All of the things that have been told to us to make us trust a Jesus are things that we now know are just untrustworthy. Like, that's not how it goes. That's not what the Hebrew Bible says. And the New Testament authors are they're shoehorning Jesus into Old Testament passages that have nothing to do with him. And the question that I asked to Emmaus was, there's a road to Emmaus where Jesus is walking on that road, and he says, the author of Luke says, while he was walking on the road to Emmaus with these two travelers, Jesus opened up the Hebrew scriptures, the law and the prophets, and showed them how all those passages were talking about him. And my question to Emmaus just now was, could anybody would you let anybody just open up a Hebrew Bible and say, hey, this passage right here in Jonah, this passage right here in Zephaniah, guess what? That was talking about me. Would you let anybody do that? He said, no. I said, well, why would you let Jesus do it? Oh, because of the prophecies. Then we go to the quote unquote prophecies and you realize they don't really talk about Jesus like we said they do. And if the prophecies talking about Jesus is why you're willing to let him make mincemeat of the Hebrew Bible, and then you realize like, oh, wait, those prophecies don't really talk about him, then maybe you should stop letting Jesus make mincemeat of the Hebrew Bible. Maybe you should stop letting Christians do it. Maybe you should stop letting apologists do it. Maybe you should stop letting New Testament scholars and Old Testament scholars pull the wool over your eyes. It's so funny. Wes, I see you. I'm going to get to you in a second. It's so funny that the story in Luke says Jesus opened their eyes so that they can see all the things he was saying about himself in the Hebrew Bible. But no, that is so much cap. They actually wrote that in there on purpose to make you think, if I go back and look through the Hebrew Bible and I don't see these passages talking about Jesus, why don't I? Oh, it must be because Jesus has to open my eyes to see it, like he did to the people on the road to Emmaus. So Jesus, would you open my eyes so that I can see it too? When in actuality, you don't have to open your eyes to see it. You have to close your eyes to see it. You've got to close your eyes to see Jesus in the Hebrew Bible. The author of Luke is lying, saying Jesus has to open your eyes so that you can see it. No, if your eyes are open, you're going to realize he's nowhere in the Hebrew Bible. That's the cap. That's the bullshit of this whole thing. They're telling you your eyes have to be spiritually opened, when in actuality, you have to close your eyes and not pay attention to the context to see a Jesus in there. I feel so sorry for myself and anybody who's still falling victim to these kinds of lies. But got two callers, so let's see what we can do here. Wes, I hope we can hear you. Welcome, Wes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. And Wes, we spoke before, right?
Yeah, man. We spoke before.
Several times, correct?
I think a couple times, yeah, man. But and then way back in the day, a lot of times. But that was when you came through Kansas City.
Okay, so can you real quick just catch me up? I probably will remember more as the call goes on, but remind me and the listeners, are you a theist? Are you atheist? Or are you agnostic?
I'm a theist.
And are you any particular kind of theist?
Yeah, I mean, me and the Christians get along well. I'm a philosopher. I'm a philosopher by nature. So me and the Christians clash, but we generally get along well.
So help us all understand. We're getting closer to me remembering our conversations, but I've had several people that kind of split the difference between them and Christianities. Where do you and Christians get along? What do you agree on and what do you disagree on?
Yeah, we kind of agree on Jesus, but I see Jesus and his teachings and all of really the New Testament as in the genre or in the tradition of a philosophical writing like Plato to Socrates, Aristotle to Plato. right? So it's
Mhm.
less for me literal, more philosophical explanation. So
And is that because we just have the liberty to do that with literature, or is that because you think the authors and maybe even God intended to tell stories so that we can get philosophy from them, not necessarily theology from them?
correct. Probably the second one for sure.
Okay.
I believe that the authors actually intended it. I think that's most clearly spotted in John for me to illustrate that. But I also think the historical depictions of Jesus always wearing
Mhm.
the white robe off the shoulder show the understanding of the people around him was as a philosopher. So
Okay. And last question before I let you cook. Do you believe that God inspired the philosophical meaning that Christians or Bible believers should be getting from the Bible? Was God involved in that, or was this just men giving their best effort to try to get us closer to where God might reside?
I probably split the difference there somewhere in the middle, right?
Okay.
I actually think this was our attempt to understand what God was revealing sometimes. Yeah. So
And
I kind
and what role did God play in the composition of us trying to put that together? Like, how much did he help, or how much did he just like, oh, I'm not going to correct you, you're wrong, but I'm not going to correct you? Like, what was God doing as the Bible was coming together?
I think he was focusing on making sure that the truths that he wanted in there were in there, not necessarily the facts. And I think those two things are different.
The truths were he God made sure the truths were in there, not necessarily the facts. And then last question, I promise.
Yeah.
Is there any right or wrong way to decipher what is a truth from what is a false fact?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, how do you do
I,
that?
truths are designed for governance of living. Facts are verifiable elements that occurred. So, like a truth to me is love. A
Okay.
fact would be a fact would be George Washington was born or whatever. Right.
Okay. So there could be a lot of things that are written in the Bible that are not facts, but God was not concerned about the facts. He was concerned about the truths that the the non-facts were the stories. I'm not going to call them non-facts. The
Yeah.
stories were wrapped around these truths. So is Jesus a historical fact like George Washington, if you believe he was a historical person, or is Jesus just a non-factual thing that God allowed people to talk about to give them a higher spiritual truth?
Both.
Understand the question?
Both. Yeah, I think both.
Okay.
Right. And I think
Okay.
Scripture uses it in both ways. So I think both. I think John makes it very clear he is not talking about a historical Jesus. He starts his book by using the concept of the Logos. I am talking about the
Mhm.
Logos. He's talking about a philosophical concept, right? Whereas Luke
And when he said the
goes,
Logos
I'm gonna
was
try to
made
write it down.
flesh, when he says the
You said
Logos was
what?
made flesh, then when he says the Logos was made flesh, at that point he is talking about the historical Jesus, or no?
He is. He is talking about the historical Jesus, but he's talking about the Logos if it was in a human nature. So
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 Jesus was not pre-existent. The Logos was. Are
right,
you willing to say that or
right.
no?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say Jesus is not pre-existent. The Logos was, yeah. But
And do you think that that's a point where you and the Christians clash or agree?
I actually think we agree there. I think they
Nah, the historical Christian teaching is Jesus pre-existent his earthly living
right, and as the Logos. That's how I
as
believe we're
God
in
the
agreement.
Son, as God the
Yeah,
Son.
right. I think
Yeah.
so. Right. The Logos is God the Son. Right. I mean, that's what
Hmm.
John kind of declares in the beginning of the book. In the beginning was the Logos.
Okay.
The Logos was with God. The Logos was God.
And
Right.
is the
And
Logos
so
a person, or is the Logos like just a thing, like a
Logos
principle?
is Logos represented the highest form of good. So the
But is
highest
it a
form of good.
person?
Well, it's an essence of God. Right. That's how he
Yeah, but is
begins.
it a
In the beginning
person?
was.
Does it
I think
have
it. I think
intellect,
it
will,
becomes.
emotion?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I'll go person there. Yes.
Okay.
But
So then
I want to.
is Jesus a different person than the Logos?
No. No, he's not.
So then Jesus pre-existent his earthly life.
No, I mean,
You
yes,
kind of just said
yes,
that.
in a way. Yeah, yes, in a way. I'm going, but it was not known as Jesus, right? It's not like you could go up in heaven, right? They called
Mhm.
him Jesus, right? I go, nah, that's not how it worked.
But it was the same person. It was the same
Yeah,
person that is
but the
Jesus
same in
was God the
essence.
Son prior.
Yeah, the same in essence. Yes, I would go yes.
Okay.
And
All
agree.
right. I'm sorry. I needed to understand where you were coming from so that
Oh,
when
I
you
get it.
use these terms throughout the rest of the call, I can pour that meaning into the words.
Oh, I
So the
get it.
question,
I'm
yeah.
on board. Yeah. Thank you very
Okay.
much for
So
doing
the
that. Yeah.
prompt is Jesus doesn't deserve our faith. I'm guessing. Well, actually, I don't even know what to guess. Do you agree or disagree?
I that's what I actually called to ask a question. I was going, all right,
Okay.
can you tell me what you mean by faith? Right. I go, because
Yes.
that's one of
Faith.
those terms that I think I would love
Mhm.
to get clarity on. Yeah.
So I'll give you my definition, then I'll ask you if you agree with the Bible's definition. My definition of faith is I cannot prove it, but I think I have every reason to believe it. Or matter of fact, no, I think that's more about trust, because trust is like trusting. Trusting is I don't know the future. Like I don't know that a chair is going to hold me up, but I've seen chairs hold people up, and even this chair has held me up. In the future, I'm willing to trust it based on what I've seen in the past. I don't think that's faith. I think that's trust. So let me take back what I said. I don't think faith is believing something you can't prove, but believing you have every reason to believe it. I think faith is believing something even when you don't really have reasons to believe it. I think that's faith. Reason says you shouldn't believe it, but you're going to believe it anyway because you're, for whatever reason, that's for whatever reason outside of reason, you're so sure that this is the case. I think that's faith.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't agree with that one. I would go, no, I think
Okay.
faith to me requires reason. Yeah. I think
Okay.
I
Now,
don't believe I don't know if I agree with the concept, but I think we can probably talk now based off of me and your understanding of faith though.
well, let's see if we can get a little more specificity. I'm saying faith is believing even against what you have reason to believe. You're saying you think faith includes reason. You can't have faith if you don't have a reason to believe something. Do you think the Bible agrees or disagrees with you about faith?
I think that the Bible's definition of faith doesn't mirror either one of ours based
I
off
think
of
it mirrors mine.
okay, all right. So I mean I hear you going. I assume you're using the Hebrews 11. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen.
Yeah. Anytime you say that your faith is the evidence of the thing you don't see, that's without reason. Because what other reason do you have to believe it? You don't see it, but you're saying that the fact that you believe it is all the evidence you need. That's an evidence-less faith.
Well, I want to be clear because to me, then what you're doing there is elevating sight as the definition of reason. You're going.
Well,
I have
not
to
just
see
sight.
something in order for
Sight.
it to. Well, or
No, I hear what you're saying, but here's how
yeah.
I would respond. For me, sight can be swapped out for any other kind of evidence. Hearing,
Okay.
tasting, touching,
Okay.
some kind of inductive, like something that makes you say, I feel safe in concluding this. If you tell me that faith is the evidence, to me, that's unreasonable. Your faith cannot be your only evidence.
Well, I think that's what I want to clarify, right? Because I would go.
Okay.
I would go. If faith is the substance of something hoped for but not seen, then I would go.
But no,
there's
it
too
says
many
it's
things.
the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And I'll go for it. So that would mean that faith would be made of the substance of something hoped for, right? Something that you hope for, and the evidence of something that you don't see, right? So I would go.
Let's put a
in my
magnifying glass on
mind,
that. What is the
okay,
what is the substance of the things that you hope for? What is that?
I would go love. The substance of love is love.
No,
So
I'm
it's
asking
something I hope for
the
and I can't
substance of
see.
the things you hope for. Like, what is the
Yeah, this
substance of your hope for love? What is the
right. That's
substance
what
of
I
that?
go. That's what I mean. The only
Mhm.
substance of love. I hope for love, right? But the only substance of it is love. That's the
No, no,
only
I think
way.
you're not answering the question I'm asking. If the Bible
Okay.
says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, I'm
Right.
saying picture anything that's hoped for. What
Okay.
is the substance of things hoped for? Whatever the hope is, what is the substance of that hope? What is that hope made up of?
Okay. So, all right, here's what I would say. Here's how I would answer that question. And this is where I think it's very important to think about how the Bible is explaining faith, right? So I would
Mhm.
go, the thing I hope for, me right now, let's just go me, is
Mhm.
peace, right?
Okay.
And I would go, you cannot say to me, you can't go, Wes, the substance of your peace is the beach in Texas.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
go,
no.
oh no.
Wes. I think you keep jumping to the substance of. It's not about the substance of peace. It's the substance of your hope for peace. What is the substance of your
Right.
hope for peace?
My hope for peace, right? The only
Right.
reason I hope for peace, the only reason I
Hmm.
hope for it is because I've experienced it.
Okay.
That's the only reason I hope for it
But
is
there are
because
things
I've
that you've
experienced it.
experienced that you don't hope for. So what is the
Right.
substance of your hope for peace? Like
Right. That's
why
what I just
hope
told
for
you.
that and not other things you've experienced?
Oh, because I experienced it. When I experience
No,
peace,
but Wes,
I want
you've
more
experienced
peace.
other things. Oh, so wait, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what I was driving you towards. Say that again.
Yeah. I said because I've experienced peace, I hope for more of it.
You want more of it, right? Now hold on. Please, y'all, pay attention because we're breaking down words, and this is so important here.
Yeah.
If faith is the substance of things you hope for, right?
Right.
And the reason why you could hope for, and then you picked peace. The reason why you can hope for peace is because you experienced it and you want more of it. Now think about this, Wes. Can you hope for things that you haven't experienced?
Yes. Yes, you can.
What do you think the substance of those hopes would be? Because the substance of your hope for peace was you experienced it and you wanted more of it. What is the substance of your hope for things that you haven't experienced?
You mean I don't know, right? I don't know what those are.
So
I don't
maybe you
hope for
want to
those.
know what they are, right?
No.
Let's say pick something that you haven't experienced but you hope for it. Can you think of anything that falls into that category?
Yes, I would go. Yeah, that's probably tough.
Mhm.
For me, that's probably tough for me because I would go. All the things that I might hope for, I have already experienced.
Well, how about this, West? Do you hope to become a millionaire?
No, no.
But you
I feel
could,
like that.
right? You
I
you
feel.
have it
I
at some
feel.
point.
I feel like that's the end. That's the means. The end that I hope for with being a millionaire. If I was a millionaire, what I'm hoping for is peace. I'm hoping that
Ah,
millionaire
okay.
allows me
Got you.
to
Got
have
you.
peace,
Okay.
right? So I go, I don't need
Um,
to be a millionaire. I'm after the peace that can come.
are you a foodie?
No, but I mean, I like to eat, don't we all? So
All
yeah,
right.
man. I like to
Think
eat.
of a restaurant you haven't been to, but you hope to. You've had that experience,
Okay.
right?
All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm on board.
What would
Okay.
the substance of that hope be?
What would be the substance of that hope?
Yeah, you hope you haven't experienced it, but you hope to. What would the substance of that hope
Oh,
be?
I would go the images of the food, the feeling that I might have of what I know good food tastes like. Like the substance of it is my existing experience of food.
Right,
My
right.
hope for the restaurant is my existing experience of food. Right.
All
So
right.
it's still
So
all that I
you're
might hope
you're
for
gonna
is
stick
based
to
off of
experience, right?
all that I might hope for is based off of something I have experienced. Yes.
Okay. And maybe I'm willing to even go there with you. I was trying to take you somewhere else, but I'm going to go where you just took it since you're going to tie hope to experience, things that you've experienced in the past or experiences that maybe you haven't had, but you want to have those experiences. And so you hope to,
As
because
long as we can
maybe
move
you can.
I
Go
think
ahead.
we can. I think we could help if we move this into a non-physical framework. I think it'd be easier for us both. In that, I think that um, all things that are hoped for are non-physical. Like you can't touch love, you can't touch peace, you can't touch grace, you can't touch hope, you can't
Um,
touch beauty, you can't touch.
I don't know
Um,
if that's true. There are things that I hope for that are physical. They're just not tangible at the moment. Like
well, I would
I can
go
run up.
even if
I,
you hope. Even if you
Mhm.
hope for them, I bet when you get them, the thing you want to that comes from it is a non-physical thing.
I don't know that that's the case. Like so, for instance,
Okay, give me one.
uh, so the food one was a physical thing. Like there are restaurants that I haven't been to that I hope
Okay,
to go to because I want to physically experience through my taste buds and all the sensations that come with eating from this restaurant, this 5-star restaurant. I hope to experience that.
and
That's a physical thing.
I would go. All right, maybe can I push you a little bit? I'm asking.
Sure.
Can I push you a
Hmm.
little bit? All right. So I would go. Let's say you get it, right?
Hmm.
Let's say you get it, right? I think what you are actually after is satisfaction. Because if
Yeah,
you
but
get the
even
food
that's
and
a
it's
physical
trash,
thing.
well, satisfaction can't be touched. You can't touch satisfaction.
But so when we think about things like satisfaction, you know what satisfaction is? So there's two things you could be talking about: pleasure or homeostasis. Homeostasis is all of my, and this is where I was trying to drive you with the whole what's the substance of hope, right? Homeostasis is all of my felt
Right.
needs are met. That's homeostasis. I'm not
Right.
too hot. I'm not too cold. I'm not too hungry. I'm not too full.
Right.
I'm not too out of breath. I'm not too. All of my levels are just what. That's homeostasis. And when we talk about peace or the biblical term shalom, wholeness, really what you're talking about is homeostasis. Now, maybe pleasure will take it up a notch. Like I had homeostasis, but now you like the neurons or the endorphins that are getting released, something is spiking and it's a good kind of spiking. But all of those are actually still physical things. It's in
Well,
your
that's what I,
physiology. Go ahead.
that's where me and you would probably different is if you are grounding all truth in a physiological experience of the body, then yes. But I am going, oh, I think there are elements of experience that transcend the physiological part of our experience.
Give
I
me
actually
one.
think, and I think I can demonstrate one. Let me
Yeah,
go.
give me one.
All right, let me see. What's the easiest one for me to do? I would go. All right. I would go. We have a perception that allows us to feel if somebody is interacting with us, even if it's not available to our five senses. Right. So, for
Mhm.
instance, you might be in a restaurant somewhere and you feel somebody looking at you. You can't see them, taste them, touch them, feel them, any of those kind of things, but you experience something that shows that you feel somebody watching you. And then when you turn to finally look, you see them in the corner and they are watching you, right? I go,
I don't
the
know that that's
experience
the
you had there.
case. Well, because here's Wes, just to kind of give you my take on that before we go too much further. A
Yeah.
lot of times we're blocking out a lot of the information that's coming into our five senses because the brain can only focus on so much at a time. So because you pick up on something that you don't think you're consciously paying attention to, doesn't mean that you're not unconsciously picking up on all kinds of things that are outside of your periphery at the moment. So you might be giving
Okay.
yourself credit for having some kind of ESP when really it's just you're like 10% of your focus is on this, and then 90% of all this is getting blocked out. But then you pick up on something that's in that 90% and you think, yo, I don't know how I knew that. Well, it's because your perception is actually wider than you give yourself credit for. All of these are physical things. You just have to pay
Well,
attention to your physiology.
well, to be clear, then I'm going, if there are parts of me that are functioning that I am not aware of,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then
Mm-hmm.
to believe that's happening takes faith as well. So you see what I'm saying? It's a so you're grounding it, you're going, yeah, your physiological process is occurring, but you don't have access to it. And I go, well, I'm arguing that they aren't physiological and you don't have access to it. So we're actually talking about the same thing by
I need to go back and re-listen to that because I'm not sure if I follow that.
Well,
but go ahead. Go ahead.
To me, you said you went, if I am picking up on something, but I am not aware of it interacting with any of my senses, you're going, but it's still your senses doing it. And
and that's only because of what we know about the brain at this point. If you watch shows like Brain Games or things like that, you realize that your brain is doing so much. And then there's this limited window that's sort of like the executive seat in your mind that's telling the rest of your brain, like, we don't need to worry about that, right? That's not a threat and that's not going to be an advantage. So we don't have to worry about that. But it's still registering. It's still a physical thing that's happening. You're just executively blocking it out. It's still physical though, is what I'm saying.
But we also know because of neuroplasticity that also it is possible there are interactions that are occurring where people's logic and things are causing the brain to rewire itself even after parts of it have been lost. So in that case,
I'm not sure how that takes away from what I'm saying.
Well, I would go, if I can take out a portion of the brain, out a portion of the brain that's responsible for some sort of executive or non-executive function, and then somehow still perceive it, that happens in this part of the brain, but then I'm still able to maintain that executive portion because of a change on the other side, I would go, then
but haven't you still just explained physical things?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm going, your brain actually is now changing as a result of your mind, not its physiology. It's trying to figure out how to replace functions that are gone from its physiology.
It's right? the circuitry of your brain, the wiring, the rewiring, the grooves in your the matter in your brain. All of those are the neural networks, the rewiring of the neural networks. All of those, the chemistry, all of those are physical things.
They are.
And when something can't happen like it used to happen, the brain reroutes it. It's still physical.
No. If it was strictly physical, all of us would experience them the same way, but we don't. We may experience...
I don't know if that's true, but hold on. So can I bring us back? Because I sort of started asking you these questions because I was trying to get to this fundamental point about faith and the substance of faith.
Okay.
My contention, if faith is the substance of things hoped for, and you actually said this a minute ago, the substance of things hoped for is our felt needs. You experienced something in the past and you want to experience it again, or you heard about an experience and you haven't had it, but you heard it sounds like it might be a good, and now you want to experience that. And so the substance of any hope that we have is really just a felt need that we're trying to meet. So then if that's the case, I don't know if you rock with that or not, but if that's the case, what the Bible is saying is that the substance of hope is our felt needs. That's like,
yeah, I would rock with that as long as I think you're making needs physical and I'm making them truths. Going back to our original conversation, I'm grounding it in a non-physical. I'm grounding it in a metaphysical understanding of needs. So you're going, needs are for you to eat, sleep, things like that. And I go, yeah, those are physiological needs, but those are not the needs that I think we're talking about here. I think when we're talking about needs related to faith, we're talking about things like love, compassion, beauty, things like that. And so I would go, yeah, the hope for of those things, I would go, is out of our experience of those things. I would go, yeah, I would agree with that.
I'll go back to your piece. Like the whole idea about, for we are God's ambassadors, telling them to be reconciled to God. Like the whole idea about why you're even preaching the gospel as a Christian, and I know you're not a Christian, you're more a philosopher, but the whole idea about the New Testament and the Hebrew Bible, if you want to go into philosophy, it's all about, we have these felt needs. I go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot, right? The bottom level needs are the physiological needs. I need water, I need air, my body wants sex, homeostasis. On top of that, the next level is safety. But if you go to religion, what religion does is my guy Tim, who does The Harmonic Atheist, has a great video on how Christianity hijacks our Maslow's our hierarchy of needs. Everything you just talked about, from love to peace to joy, all those things, those are physiological needs that have been tied to a God. Because if I tell you that you've angered this God or you're distant from this God, you need to be reconciled, what am I telling you? You're not going to have peace. You're not going to be safe if you don't get with this God. Hey, this God loves you. He sent the son to die for you. You can experience the most love you've ever. I'm going to all of your needs, your felt needs, and I'm spiritualizing them. And I'm saying God's the only way you can actually meet them. So once again, if faith is the substance of things hoped for, all Hebrews 11 is saying is you've got these felt needs, and because you need them so much, I'm going to instruct you to hope for them. And the very fact that you hope for them, that's faith. Faith is the substance of all your hopes, and it's the evidence of the things that you don't see. The fact that you want them means that they must be out there. C.S. Lewis has a famous quote. I'll give you the floor after this. C.S. Lewis has a quote that says, for every desire that we have, there's something that meets that need. If we're hungry, there's food. If we're, if we're feeling spicy, horny, there's sex. Every need that we have, there's something to meet it. Then C.S. Lewis says, if I find within myself a desire for something that nothing on earth meets, then that must mean that I was made, or that desire was made for something that's not going to come from earth. And he says, we have this desire to worship. I have this desire to live forever, and nothing down here can do it. So that must mean there's something heavenly to meet that need. Once again, this is somebody who's looking at our desires or our felt needs, even our need for longevity, is really the drive for self-preservation. Religion takes that and turns it into what does Ecclesiastes say? God has placed eternity within the hearts of men. It's just a felt need for preservation. There's nothing spiritual about it. I don't want to die. It's the law of preservation, but religion spiritualizes it. And so I'm done on this note. I think that faith in the Bible is hijacking our felt needs and our desires, and then turning those into the very fact that you desire this is your faith telling you that that thing must be out there. Now come to this God so that you can get it. And I think that that's unwarranted. I know I said a lot, and I'm sorry.
No. I think it's fine. I guess I'm not sure if, I'll leave with a question, and I'll go, I'm not necessarily sure I'm conceding those points, but I'll just go ahead and concede them for our discussion. And I'll go, if that's true, your argument is that there is no need for that, thus no need for God. Is that kind of where you're arguing?
No, I'm not even saying that we don't have the felt need for preservation. There are times when I think about my life ending and I'm like, damn, it's got to end. I would love for it to. The whole idea of self-preservation, I would love sometimes if I thought that there was no end to my life. I'm doing a response video that somebody just sent me, Noon in the chat, sent me this video from somebody on Instagram talking about our energy and what happens to our energy after we die. Our energy continues. I don't think that that's the case. I'm going to do a video about why I think that's not the case. But there are times when I wish that was the case. So I'm not denying this felt need that we have for longevity and even maybe eternality. But the idea that Jesus deserves our faith as the one who can grant us that, I don't think that Jesus deserves that faith. I don't know if there's anything that does deserve that faith. If anything, I'm looking to science saying, hey, y'all figure it out yet? Y'all figure out how to make us like starfish that can live, as long as I'm looking for anybody who deserves my faith in that. I don't think Jesus does.
Okay. All right. And so that's where I think we can come together. Would you tell me why not?
What has Jesus said that proves he's trustworthy? I have a ton of things that Jesus said that proves he's not trustworthy. The last caller talked about Jesus walking on the road to Emmaus, showing people how the Hebrew Bible, which Christians call the Old Testament, how the Hebrew Bible speaks of him all through the law, books of Moses, and all through the prophets. But then when you go back to the Hebrew Bible and look at the passages that people say, see, that was about Jesus and that was about Jesus. The gospel authors do it over and over again. This was done to fulfill the passage that says this, or this was the fulfillment of this Old Testament. Then you go to the Old Testament and none of them are talking about Jesus. So Jesus is a liar if he's saying that the Hebrew Bible spoke about him. It doesn't. Jesus said, hey, see this temple? It's going to be thrown down. They ask him, hey, when's this going to happen? He gives them all these signs and says, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things be. You're going to see me, the Son of Man, coming in the clouds with the angels and the power of heaven and all that. And this generation won't pass away until that happens. And unless that generation is still alive, Jesus lied. So if he lied about a bunch of stuff, why would I trust him to handle my eternity, even if I wanted one?
Okay. Could you, all right, so I guess, are you open to hear my thoughts on that?
I would love to. I did a lot of talking. I like listening more than I like talking. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. So in my mind, I think the declarations you made around some of the things Jesus said are only if you're reading the Bible like a theologian or like a historian, but
Gotcha.
not if you're reading them like a philosopher.
Gotcha.
Because I would go, as a philosopher, to be clear, those actually make total sense to me, even if I was to do it today. If I got up and go, you remember Martin Luther King said, I have a dream that one day my children will be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. I might today go, that speech was about me. Now, was that speech about me? No, he talked about his children. But was that speech about me? Yes, in that the theme of what he was hoping for was for me. That's how a philosopher might read those things. So it's not about the literal interpretation of the thing. It's about, does the theme, the message of that thing also apply to me? And I would go, in Jesus's case, I would go, yes. As a philosopher, that's how we read those. But if you read them as a theologian or as a historian, you are right. They sound totally crazy. But my proposal is, and I've been arguing this for a long time, is that when the 1600s, when the Germans got a hold of the Bible and all the other kind of things, what happened is we created an interpretation model for the Bible that uses this historical narrative concept. But the Bible as a genre, Hebrew Bible, New Testament Bible, whichever one you want to do, predates the genre of history. The people who wrote back in ancient times, remember, most of the people weren't literate, so they used an oral tradition. So they actually write with the idea of going, I'm trying to teach themes of truth, not make sure that people memorize historical facts. And in fact, we know it because if you read some of the ancient Mesopotamian writings, if you read some of the ancient Egyptian writings, when they write, they might choose a historical character like Akhenaten, and they'll go, Akhenaten gathered the people. That's a historical fact. And then they'll go, and then he became a bird and flew across the sky and brought the moon back. And everybody will go, see, the Egyptians thought that people turned into birds. And I go, these are the people who created math, geometry, built pyramids, things like that. They did not believe this dude turned into a bird. They're trying to communicate that he brought in a season of something for the people. That's how they wrote.
Hold on real quick. I'm rocking with you and I want you to continue, but you do know that there were Greek philosophers who actually complained that while the authors of these myths were doing what you're saying, many of the common people misunderstood and thought that the myths were actually intended to be taken as literally true. You know, the philosophers made that complaint, right?
Right. And I'm not disagreeing. I think we're still doing it today, but I think that's why it's important to recognize, in my mind, that's why it's important to recognize how we read the Bible matters. I tell people, I don't debate the Bible, whatever. I do talk about how we read it, though. I'm a philosopher, so when I approached it, I read it like a philosopher might do. And I read and I went, oh, I remember when Plato told stories about Socrates. He tells some stories that are true, and then he just makes up some stories about Socrates in order to show what Socrates taught. right? We
Can
know
I ask
that
you a
Plato's
question?
made up some stories. Yeah.
Do you think that God, the God who is behind the Bible, do you think that he's more in favor of the way you interpret the Bible philosophically than the way that many Christians interpret it theologically and historically?
I actually really do, man. I really, really
And
do.
hold on,
I
many of my questions are leading somewhere else. Rock with
Yeah.
me for a minute.
Okay.
If God is more pleased with the way you are reading the Bible than the way many other Christians are reading the Bible theologically and historically, do you think that God intends to do anything about that? Or like, why do you think God has allowed for so long so many Christians to read the Bible theologically and historically and not philosophically?
Well, I would propose that he also has had people read it philosophically from the
No, for sure,
beginning,
for sure. But
right?
the
And so I
majority of
go,
people are not reading it that way. Why do you think God allows the Well, do you think God wants to be accurately known?
yes, I do. I really do.
So
Yeah.
why do you think a God who wants to be accurately known? Well, one more question before I ask that. Do you think that God could clear up for the masses that, hey, this was not theology, this was philosophy? God could clear that up, right?
I do. Yeah.
So why do you think a God who wants to be accurately known, who could clear it up, has not and allowed so many people to take the Bible as history and theology?
All right. My thought would be, if I don't want to, I don't want to jar us into another topic, but I would tell you the reason. I'll just give you the reason why I think that's true, is because I think he respects free will so much. I really do think he respects free will so much. The God that
It's
I think
amazing to
has
me
the
how
potential.
often Christians run to free will as like that's the escape hatch. Like God, God,
Well,
he's communicating himself to people, but they've got free will, so he won't clear up a misconception as big as, because the whole idea about Jesus deserving our faith, we're talking about eternity, right? Do you well hold on, because maybe it's not as astonishing as I'm making it seem.
it's not.
Do you think that
It's not.
do you think that
Yeah, to me.
eternity is at stake for anybody?
Yes, yes, I do.
Oh, so okay,
But
so hold on.
not
Then it
not
is
in
as
not in the
astonishing.
traditional way. Yeah, maybe not
Okay,
in
so
the
how
not
could
in
he?
the. That's what I'm saying. I have a lot of different ways that I think about things that I go probably won't be as relevant there. But I'm listening. I'm sorry.
So you don't believe in heaven and hell?
I do, but not in the. I believe heaven and hell are both experiences that start here. So
But
remember
where do
the
they go
kingdom.
after here? Like once you're done here, what happens to you?
I think you experience heaven or hell as, but I think of them as cultures, not as places, right? So when Jesus
Can
talks
you say
about
more
heaven or
about that?
hell, yeah, when Jesus talks about heaven or hell, one of the interesting things he does is he never talks about, or when he talks about heaven, I'll start with heaven, then we'll talk about hell in a second. But when Jesus talks about heaven, he never really talks about what it looks like, right? He talks about what it feels like. The kingdom of heaven is like this, or the kingdom of heaven is like that, right? He doesn't talk about what it looks like. He talks about what it feels like. And then he goes, hey, your goal is for you to bring that kingdom here, right? Whenever you pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So Jesus seems to think that heaven is more about a culture. And I think a lot of our depictions of heaven feel ridiculous to me if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about gold streets and pearls and stuff, because I go in mansions and stuff, I go, Time Warner's not hooking up cable in heaven, and what we gonna do with a gold street? Hock it and take it to the pawn shop? Like, it doesn't make there to me, those were symbolic elements. So I think of heaven as a culture, right? A way of feeling. And Jesus promises
And then
certain
and
things.
what's
He goes,
hell?
oh, hell is the lack of those things, right? So he kind of goes, I'm gonna tell you about Gehenna, right? He's gonna go, and everybody thinks he's saying hell, but I'm going, well, Gehenna was an actual valley outside the thing. He goes, yeah, the worm never dies and the fire never goes out. I go, that's where they burn their trash, right? So yeah, the worm, if you don't live right, you're gonna end up in a place that feels like Gehenna. But he's not going, Gehenna is the place. He's going, you're gonna end up in a place that feels like Gehenna,
And is that a
right? So
physical place?
I think I don't know, it's a cultural place, right? And I think many people are experiencing it now. Many people feel
But hold on. So,
disconnected.
but when you die, you experience heaven or hell physically, or does your mental state just stay alive and you mentally experience something that's culturally heavenly or something that's figuratively hellish? Like, what happens when you die in your worldview?
Yeah, I think you experience either more of the goodness that was here or less of it. And I'm not
Physically,
sure.
you don't.
I, right. I don't know about physically, because remember, if those of us who genuinely believe in Christianity, like not just
Mhm.
the depictions of it, we genuinely believe we'll be a new existence. We'll get a new body. We'll get new names. We'll be like he is, right? We see
And
dimly as in a
are
mirror.
those
We say,
facts or truths? Like when Paul talks about taking off this tent and putting on an incorruptible one, is that a fact, or
yeah,
is that just like a story he's telling, and there's a deeper truth in there somewhere?
I think they're truths. Yeah. I think there's truths, because
But
you
it's not a
can't
fact. It's
describe.
not a fact that your spirit is going to take off this earthly tent, this body, and be clothed with a new one. That's not a fact.
I don't know what that actually means, right? So I go, I think it
Okay.
may be a fact. I think it may be a fact, but I think the idea that we're thinking of, that somehow you'll lose this physiology part of your body and thing. I go, oh, I don't know about any of that. And Jesus didn't seem to be concerned with that part. And as a
Okay.
philosopher, I follow Jesus. I'm closer to Jesus only than I am to anything. And so I
All
kind
right.
of
I
go,
needed to
he
know
didn't
that
seem
to ask
concerned
this
about that
question.
part. Yeah.
So, but you do think that there is a real sense in which our existence continues, maybe physically, but there will be something heavenly about it or hellish about it. And so, if you're willing to say that, even if you don't know what that actually will look like all the way, then there is eternity at stake for people. So then I go back to this question of, if eternity is at stake and God wants to be known, and Jesus is bidding people to trust him and have faith in him for their eternal well-being, lest they end up in something that's hellish, isn't it incumbent upon God to make sure that people understand this road to this heavenly eternity, as opposed to letting them go around thinking theologically and historically when they need to be thinking more philosophically? Because think about me, right? I
Mm-hmm.
abandoned Jesus because I took it historically and theologically, and I think it's all BS now. But if God really cared about my eternal well-being, what is God's role in making sure that, hey, Brady, I didn't want you to take that theologically, I wanted you to take it philosophically? And then, so is God's great idea to send Wes to come and convince me of that? Because there's a bunch of other people deconverting, and they don't have a podcast like me. They don't have a Wes calling in to help them realize, hey, you didn't need to deconvert. You took it theologically when you should have just took it
Okay.
philosophically. Like, what is God's role if our
Oh,
eternity is at stake?
I love this one. Okay. All right. Here, I'll sum it up. This is pretty much my whole thing. Then I'll go Acts
Mhm.
17, 26 through 27. I think is probably the best way to explain it, right? Acts 26 through 27. From one man, God created every nation on earth. He he determined the lands they would inhabit and the times they would be there, right? So from one man, God made everybody. He put where
Hold
they would
on,
be and what time they would
hold
be
on.
there.
I like where you're going, because I think I know your point, but I'm just curious. Even in that story in Acts, is that talking about facts, or is that just a truth wrapped in a story that we don't even know if the story is true?
Oh, well, in my mind, that it's important to understand those kinds of things don't matter for parables, right? Like, I'll take
Mm-hmm.
one step back, because so I'll go, let's use Aesop's tortoise and the hare, right?
Mm-hmm.
If if in the story of the tortoise and the hare, it doesn't matter if Aesop really did see a tortoise or a hare that day. It
Mm-hmm.
does not matter if they were really next to each other. He
Mm-hmm.
might have saw a tortoise. He might have saw a hare. That has nothing to do with the point of the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm going, oh, it doesn't matter to me whether this I'm closer to, when it comes to maybe thinking about the Bible this way, I'm closer to how the Tao thinks about its writings. It doesn't matter to me the author, it doesn't matter to me any of that. What matters to me is there a truth in the thing that resonates? And so here's my truth.
So through
It
one
resonates
man,
from
God
Acts
made. So
every
through one man,
nation.
God made every nation, and
He
you're
said the
saying
land they would
that
inhabit.
doesn't have to be a fact. That could just be getting us towards a truth that's in this story somewhere, right?
Right. And I think the truth's in the very next line, right?
Okay.
In the very next verse. In Acts 17, 26 to 27, from one man, God, because I don't think the Genesis story is literal. So it doesn't matter to me. I go, but he does go. So essentially, if I was reading this as a philosopher, he goes, he put God put everybody on the planet where they were going to be and designated what time they were going to be there. Wherever they are, he put them there and he designated what time he was going to be there. This is Paul at Mars Hill, so I assume somebody from the crowd goes, why? And he goes, he did this so that they might possibly reach out for him and find him, because he is not far from any one of us. It doesn't say from all of us. It doesn't say from humanity. It says from any one of us. That means if there's a dude in the Mariana Trench, he ain't never seen a person before, but he begins to go, I wonder about God. If he reaches out, he says he'll find him because he's not far from any one of us. So you asked me what was God's responsibility. I go, God's responsibility is that he has put himself in every moment, in every place that exists, so that if someone reaches out for him, they can find him if they want to find him. And I think
now, if they have to, it says the Greek term grope, they're like painstakingly search for. So it's not like God made himself available to everybody. They have to grope for him. And then it says, so that they might possibly find, it's not definite, possibly find him. So even the passage that you went to says God is basically hiding himself from people. He flung them out all over the planet, placed them in the times and place that he wanted them, so that they would grope for him and perhaps find him, because he's not far from each one of us.
Okay, I'd love to
God's
know what
hiding from
version.
people.
I'd love to know what version you're reading. Right? It says perhaps reach out for him. Perhaps reach out for him. Right? That's where the perhaps is. The maybe is not in whether they find him. The maybe is whether they really earnestly want to look.
I'll give you that. Go, yes, yeah. So
that's true.
So that they might reach out for him, but they might not.
Right. And if they don't reach out for him, that's where you wanted to know where the free will lands. And I go, that's where
I got you. Lands. Yeah. That's the free will.
In my mind, so he is trying to make himself known in all of the ways. Now, but remember, for me, I think this is where it becomes really important. We haven't had it, and I don't want to take all your time and let you down, but we haven't had the salvation conversation, because I think then what people think is happening there is that they have to say the name Jesus, recognize the substitutionary atonement, follow the Romans road, 323, 623, 10, 9, and 10. And I go, oh, no. I don't think that's what that's teaching at all, right? And I don't think that's how you find God. In fact, I tell people I can give you a gospel that doesn't require Jesus's name, that no Christian to date has debated me on it. And it is simply this: anyone who looks for God while believing he's good will find him. Or will be saved, because either they will find God or he will find them. Right? That doesn't require the word Jesus, doesn't require any of that. It requires them to go.
Wait, what passage is that? What?
Oh, that's my premise based off of this verse. Right? It's not a. It's a.
Well, so you're adding some things to it there.
Not to the Bible. I'm articulating a path of salvation that doesn't require the word Jesus, which is where I think most of this difficulty comes from. Is you would go,
and I guess as a philosopher you can do that, because you got people who they're placed in different parts on the planet and they are searching for God, but they don't find Jesus. They find the God of their culture, and you're willing to say, I guess, as a philosopher, that's fine. They don't have to find Jesus. They could find any version of God that is, like, would you say any God is just as good as Jesus?
I don't know if I'd say that. I think that they can find the logos there, but yes, I don't think they have to find Jesus, but I do think they can find the logos. Yes.
The logos being what now?
The logos being the goodness that was with God from the beginning, and the goodness that made everything that exists as he says in John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Logos was with God, the Logos was God. There's no other way to describe the Logos other than God, and nothing was made that was not made by the Logos. So the goodness
So
that
I'm
made
sure you know
all
the
that
history of the
exists.
term logos, right?
Yeah, it's a Greek term,
Right. And what does it mean?
Greek philosophy term. It means the highest. The shortened way that I usually explain it to people is it means the highest good that can exist, but it actually meant the purest form of wisdom. They believed in this concept called forms and abstractions, and I didn't want to get into all of that, so I tend to go, the Logos, the easiest way to explain it is the highest good that can exist.
Well, it really doesn't have to do with good. It's more to do with wisdom, right? It's more to do with
And that's
it's not
where
about
that's why I want to it is. That's what I want to clarify, because as a philosopher, remember, wisdom for us is the path to the highest good. We're philosophers, we ask, what is the good life? What's the best way to live? So for us, the Logos is the path to the highest good. It's the highest good that exists.
I think I'll actually even like I could rock with that. Like I don't think I have any issues with that.
Yeah.
But when John brings it in, where is John getting it from? Because John's not getting it from Greek philosophy. You know where John's getting it
Yes,
from,
he
right?
is. No, John is getting
No,
it from
he's
Greek
not.
philosophy.
No, he's not.
is.
He's not. He's not.
Okay, tell
No,
me.
no.
All right, tell me.
John is getting it from Philo. Philo brought it from Greek philosophy into Judaism, and he made the Logos a demiurge. He made the Logos a instrument in creation, so that the Most High God doesn't have to touch the creation. He's going to do it through the Logos. So that's what Philo is doing, and John is co-opting that and making Jesus Philo's Logos.
I want to be clear, right? This is where I kind of go.
Mhm.
This is where, for me, it feels like you're trying to narrow down a scope that I don't think is actually warranted here, right? Because I go, one of the things we know specifically about John is that he often chooses Aramaic words, so he chooses Greek words intentionally, right? And the concept of the Logos was not limited to Philo. It was actually very commonplace knowledge in the time of antiquity. The concept of the Logos was known among the Greeks, the Stoics, was known among the Jews. It was not a hidden concept. Remember, at this point, the Roman Empire has shared this concept of the Greeks throughout the crescent, right? Throughout the region, right? So the idea of going, John is using a Logos that's only specific to one type of thing is limiting the way John might have been understanding that term Logos, and there's no reason for us to actually do that except for a
There is a reason.
framework.
There is a reason. Hold on, Wes. There is a reason.
Okay.
How does John
Okay.
use the Logos? Does he use it the way Greeks use it, or does he use it the way Philo used it? He makes
uses
the
it
Logos. Go ahead.
He uses the Greek here, right? The Greek here, because you're saying Philo made it an instrument of creation, right? And I'll go,
He made it
John
the
actually
way
used-
that the Most High made the world, and John uses it the same way.
okay.
There was
And I'm
nothing that
going-
was made that has not been made by him. That's what
Right.
what Philo did with the Logos. It's not the Greek
Right.
way
Why
it's used. That's the
what
way
I'm saying.
that. Go ahead.
Philo brought the concept from Greek philosophy. That's what you acknowledged, right?
Into Judaism, and he made it a demiurge.
So I
And
wanna
John
be
is doing
clear,
the
though.
exact same thing with that.
So I want to be clear. Why is it you think that John wouldn't also have access to that knowledge?
He might have. All I'm
Philo
saying
did.
is John did the same thing with the Logos that Philo did. He didn't
I'm
do what
saying
the
he
Greeks
also
did with
did.
it. He did what Philo did with it.
He did the same thing. That's what I'm saying. He did the same thing that you will find in the Stoics, in the Epicureans, and actually in many of the Greek writers of the day. They all actually tie the idea of the Logos to the creation of the world. That's not unique to Judaism. That's not unique to Philo. That concept of the Logos being tied to the creation of the world was not unique to Judaism or Philo. The Greek philosophers also used that concept in the same way. That's not unique. We don't have to put that limit on it, right? Unless we're trying to like push the.
I'm going to look that up. I'm not sure about
framework.
that, but I'll grant that.
Okay.
I'll look it up. I don't know if that's true, but you might be right.
And so In my mind, that's I look forward to it. I go and we can chat it up, man, because I'd love to know. But in my mind, that's where I go. I think that the Logos is everywhere, and I do think that belief in the Logos is how we get to salvation, right? Instead of people, I think that it's just as important. But remember, I'm a philosopher, so I think Jesus came and taught a way to live. Other people think he came to just die for sins. And I ask the question, I go, why would he stay here so long? If he just came to
Wait,
die
I'm
for
sorry.
sins,
Do you think
if he
he
just came to,
also died for sins, or do you think he just taught a way to live?
oh, I think it's both, right? But I
He
think
did so.
the
Hmm.
I think the importance there in my mind is going, uh, even if he did do that part, he seems to think very clearly from his own words that you can follow the philosophy that he's teaching and also get the same benefits, right? So he doesn't see his death as separate from his teachings of his life. He's asked, how do I get eternal life? Luke 10, right? How do I get eternal life? And he goes, love the, what does it say in the scripture? And they go, love the Lord your God with all your heart and your mind, your soul, love your neighbor as yourself. He goes, do that and you'll get eternal life. He didn't talk about his death, his burial, his resurrection. He went, that is how you get eternal life. That's part of the
But
Jesus
you
is
know, the
the
Christian response to that is that's impossible. It's impossible for anybody to keep the law. That's why he needed to die. So he said, this
I
is how you
know,
get eternal life. If you could manage to love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm sure, Wes, I don't know. I'm curious. I got a couple red flags that I need to respect, but I'm just curious.
okay.
Do you think that you could possibly, Wes, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself to a sufficient level to earn salvation? Are you in that camp?
I think Jesus said you could. Jesus
Oh,
goes,
so Jesus doesn't need to die for you,
oh, he did. He's already done it. Remember he was
but
lamb
he
slain
doesn't
from
need
before the
to.
foundation. Oh,
You don't
because he already
need
had.
that.
He already had though. He did.
But
He did
if
need
you
it
could love your neighbor as yourself and love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, why does Jesus need to die for you if you can do that? Because, like you
because
said, Jesus said
that's
that's how
why
you
you
earn
can,
eternal life.
because that's what you can do. That's what I'm, he died so that that's what you can do, right? He died so that you can do it. Remember, we keep putting everything in time, but he's the lamb slain before the foundation of the earth, right? So whatever happened
But if you
related
don't
to
do it,
him
what happens
goes,
to you? Like if Jesus
what do you mean?
died, if he's the lamb slain before the foundation of the world, and you need him for your salvation, but and you're saying
I
he
don't think you
died.
I don't think you need him for your salvation. I think you need him for the choice. I think that's what he provided, right? I think that's, but this is where I'm saying we get into a real long conversation, but I would go, I think Jesus seems to think he's going, he's going, you can listen to what I'm saying right now. I came here that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's why I came. I came so that you can have life and life more abundantly. I came so that you can have the eternal life, the best life you can have. I came so you can have it, right? And I think you
Mhm.
can get it by Matthew goes, from this point on, Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Jesus's gospel wasn't about himself, it was about the kingdom of heaven. He thinks that gospel is just as relevant as the gospel about him. It doesn't mean that what he did doesn't matter. It means that he's going, oh, what I did isn't just die. What I did is teach how to live.
So last question, because the red flags are still flying here. Last question, I promise. Um, so you think we need faith in Jesus because what? Or not
Um,
need. Well, yeah, I want to know.
you
We need it because of
you didn't
what,
ask.
and he
Yeah,
deserves it
you
because of
didn't
what?
ask. That wasn't your question. You go, does Jesus deserve it? And I go,
Right. I'm asking
well,
both now.
okay. And I would go, I'm gonna go with the deserve question. The need one feels like a bigger one to me for us to
Okay.
have. And I would go,
Okay.
I think, I think that if we truly look at what Jesus gave as truths for how to live, they're some of the most beautiful truths that I think exist. And I go, I think that alone goes, yeah, man, I'd like to know more about what this dude taught. I'd like to follow the path that he said we might follow in order to lead to life abundantly. And so I think
He taught that we
I
should
think
still
that's
be observing
deserving.
the law of Moses. Do you think that that's true?
I think, remember, all right, because I don't want to lead us into a bigger conversation because you got the red
No, but
flags, but I'll go.
yeah, but I think this is worth asking. You say he taught some of the most wonderful things. He taught that he didn't come to abolish the law of Moses. He came to fulfill it. He wants that law is not going to go out of existence. It needs to be fulfilled. Do you think that we should still be living according to that law?
Well, remember, God's law is for the heart, not for your actions. We know you can do all the actions, and if your heart's not right, it doesn't matter. So the law, Jesus came to fulfill the heart of the law. Jesus seems to love the law, but
Jesus said he's going to give you a new heart. He's going to give us a new heart and put his spirit within us so that we can actually live out the law. That's what the Old Testament says.
Right. The heart of the law, not its actions. We know that. Jesus seems to behave.
No.
So
when
you say the law, that's why I want to make sure.
The Hebrew Bible says the new covenant. The new covenant is going to be God putting his spirit within his people and giving them a new heart so that they could live out, walk according to all his statutes.
Right.
That's not some like ethereal, just respect my will. That's do these specific actions. I'm going to put a new heart in you so you can do that. That's what the new covenant was supposed to be.
Well, see, this is where I would love to get into this. This is where I would love to get into that conversation, because I would go, we know for a fact that the statutes, the way that at least the way that we're using the law, it seems, I don't know how you're using law yet. So let me take a step back. I was assuming
when I say law, I'm talking about all of the commandments that God gave Israel.
About the 613 commandments given to Israel. Right.
It doesn't make any kind of delineation when it says you're going to live out my statutes, my ordinances.
Okay. So then I would go, this is where you have to actually look at what Jesus did as it relates to when he talked about the law. And where you see him do that is you see him push those statutes further, right? We know the whole Sermon on the Mount.
Made him more severe.
One way. You have heard him say it one way. Severe. I've heard him say it one. Right. But what did he give? He gave governance of the heart. He didn't make them more severe. He moved them from physical action to governance of the heart.
That is more severe. If you look at a woman lustfully, you've committed adultery with her in your heart. That's more severe.
Yeah. But at the same time, he goes, you Pharisees, you out here preaching the law, but you're not doing justice. You should have done the law, but actually done justice. His concern is about the governance of your heart. And I think that's very important if we're going to talk about what Jesus says about the law and what he wants you to follow. He is talking about the commandments. I don't think there's
anything wonderful about somebody telling me that I'm going to have to live out the Mosaic law and a more severe version of it. I don't think that's wonderful. But if you think that Jesus is like, go ahead.
Right. That's why I go. I think we would have to talk about what we mean by law there, because I think you are.
Yeah.
I think you are.
I'm going to do a show.
Theologian.
I keep forgetting your philosopher with it. I'm going to do a show in the near future about morality, which is probably going to get into the law and all that. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk. Then I might do a whole week on it. So if you missed the first day, you can still get in. But I do got to get to these other calls, man. So I appreciate you calling. I appreciate the conversation and the pushback. Good convo. Hopefully folks enjoyed it for the most part. And I'll catch you on the next one, man. So stay well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep. Get with you. I did see the red flags flying, but my questions were trying to unearth certain things, and I was trying to give it a chance to grow into a fruitful conversation, which I think it did to some degree. Thank you guys for being patient there. I got a super chat from Mixtress Monica. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. They always answer, you haven't prayed enough. You are not praying to the correct God. You don't love God enough. Like we haven't tried. That's the other thing. It's like some of us who've left religion have tried to look at it all kinds of ways that never panned out. And even if I were to try to go back and look at the Bible as a philosopher, not as history or theology, I just think there's probably better philosophy out there. And one of the issues I have is okay, like how do you know if you're doing it right? How do you know if I didn't get to ask him this question, but when he read from Acts 17, through one man, God made all the nations, decided the times and the places that they would live, and God did this so that each man would search for him and perhaps find him, or perhaps search for him and find him, though he's not far from each of us. He took the second part of that as that's the truth, and the first part is the story that doesn't have to be true. But how do you know? Like, what if somebody else were to come behind and say, no, 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 no. The first part is the truth, that through one man God made all nations, and the other part about so that we can seek and find, that's the untrue part. Like, how do you decide whether the first part is true and the second is just story, or vice versa, or maybe both parts are true, or maybe both parts are just story? How would you ever know? And I don't think anybody's ever had a good answer. I was, I know you're gonna think I'm lying. I was just getting to you, caller who just hung up. I really was. It was God's Advocate who called last week. And God's Advocate, if I remember correctly, was a, I don't know if God's Advocate was a theist, because I think I remember being pleasantly surprised that the call was not a typical theist caller, but God's Advocate just hung up. So the line is open. I'll put the link in the chat again. And I hope that those of you who are watching, if you are a theist and you're like, why does this guy care so much? Why are you still sitting here talking about Jesus in the Bible? I really do think it matters how we think through things and what we say about our world and our reality, and that we help each other be as reasonable as possible, because that's how we advance as a species. And if we can get untruths out of here, I think we'll be better for it. And if you're an atheist or agnostic or skeptic watching, hopefully somebody's watching say, oh, hopefully you're hearing things that are helping you, like, okay, that's how I would address this issue, or that's a good way to dive into that conversation and maybe get a person to think harder about what they're saying here. But lest I lose the caller again, I'm gonna bring God's Advocate onto the stage. Welcome, God's Advocate. What's going on?
What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
I definitely can.
Okay.
God's Advocate, remind us, atheist, agnostic, theist, where you at with the God?
Theist. Yes, theist. Somewhere in the ballpark of like Hebrew Israelite theology.
Okay.
Not what's the Bible thing? I don't think the Bible is infallible.
Okay.
I think it's flawed. And there's a particular verse in Revelations that talks about how if anyone adds to this book or takes away from it, that they'll be damned or whatever. And I think that kind of speaks to the fact that one might assume that maybe it might be touched in some kind of way.
Okay. I'm just curious, if you're willing to admit that the Bible might have been touched, what good is it if you're not able to tell which parts have been touched?
That is a very good point. That is very good. So I don't like you get like into the weeds with the stuff, and I feel like once you get into the weeds in here, you can start to see all the contradictions. You can see all these flaws. I look at like bigger themes and macro. I look at the macro stuff, and then I add like some level of logic, and then so I look at some of the big themes. One of the big themes, or one of the things that just sticks out in my mind, not necessarily a theme, and that is, it says that the world is given into the hand of the wicked. So if the world is given into the hand of the wicked, and we see the general state of things, and we see and then you have that saying that history is written by the champions, or we generally look at, the whitewashing and different things of that nature. So people in power will control the narrative ultimately. And if this
Hmm.
book is truly like this powerful, they're probably going to get their hands on it and manipulate it. And it goes into like what people talk about. Like if you're like, oh well, you know, this old text or that old text, and then it's like, well, what the hell does the Vatican have? And you have that whole thing where it's like people really think the Vatican is sitting on a lot of stuff. And then, so what we're actually seeing is like, it's kind of like we're seeing into a window possibly of something greater. And I don't feel like we have the full picture and we're trying to
So,
decipher.
gotcha. So, if I can sum up what you're saying, what good is the Bible if it's been touched? It sort of just gives us an idea that there are some truths out there, and this book might point us in the right direction. But then we've got to become discerning and studious to know, like, what we're reading, like how much it's trustworthy, and we're going to do, to different degrees, a better or worse job of figuring out whether or not we can trust it. But at least it's pointing us in a Godward direction, and maybe that's enough.
Yes, something along those lines, essentially. Yes.
Okay, so one more question before we dive in. Uh, are you a Jesus worshiper?
That's a good question. I usually pray to the Most High.
Hmm.
So that is a good question.
Like, what do
Um,
you do with Jesus?
oh, I usually pray to the Most High. So I don't
Right.
like I see him as the Messiah.
Okay.
I'm not usually directly praying in my mind. I'm not usually praying directly to Christ. Maybe
But
sometimes
that
I do.
begs more questions. If
Yeah.
he's the Messiah, what does he do? Like, what is the Messiah good for? What does he do? Um, what makes
That
him the Messiah?
so that would be the saving part. So the savior
Okay.
role is what
So he died for the sins of the world.
which sins.
Well, I don't know. I'm curious. If you're calling him the Messiah, and I'm trying to figure out what makes him the Messiah. What did he do that earns him the Messiahship? Was he anointed by God? That's what the term Christ or Messiah means. And anointed to do what? What did he do? You said that would be the what you said. Did you use the word salvation or
Yeah.
saving the
So
world?
saving, yeah, salvation. I'm thinking of that more as a future tense situation. Yeah. So he in the cross situation, that was more of like if you go, I think, to Hebrews 10, where it's like he was the end of like animal sacrifice essentially,
Hmm.
and not being under the so like no animal sacrifice, and I assume no one is being put to death like if you commit the mildest
So his bodily death was necessary for salvation. You would agree with that?
now that is a good question. Now you're getting
Yeah, because
into
I'm
a
trying to figure out
bigger.
what's the point of him being the end of the Old Testament sacrifices. What's like what why do that if it wasn't necessary?
Okay, now you're getting into some stuff where it's like, how do we even we're just like, we have to look at it like we are the created, and this is supposedly a book of some creator, and we're like, what are we as an individual on this greater scale? Like there's stuff that science can't even explain for you, like a lot of stuff still out there where it's just like we don't know, like what's at the bottom of the ocean, how much of the ocean have we figured out, like there's stuff going on in this world, in this universe, where even in the human body, where it's like, oh shoot, like what is that? You know? So it's like, and then we're asking questions about morality and this, that, and the other. Like, is there a spiritual realm? Is there spiritual stuff going on that we don't see? Like,
Okay.
there's so much that could be out there where, like, if you go down some different avenues and you start to look into some things, it's like, as someone who is the created of the create of a creator, and then you're trying to
Mhm.
figure out, oh, why would the creator do that? Like, I wish I had the verse. I don't remember the verse, but there's a verse where I can't remember if it's Enoch or someone, and I think it's, I'm probably butchering it, but they're talking to like either God or an angel or something, and then they're asking these questions like, well, do you know how this works or that works or this works? Um,
So when
so
God's talking to Job,
maybe Job.
sounds
I
like
don't
the
remember.
God and Job conversation. But let me try to streamline this real quick.
Yeah,
I was
go
trying to
for it.
figure out where Jesus was in your worldview, but the prompt says Jesus doesn't deserve our faith, and I'm just curious. I don't know whether you would agree or disagree with that based on what you've said about the Bible and God and Jesus so far. What do you think about that statement? Jesus doesn't deserve our faith.
Well, the way I look at it this way is it's hard to, if evil rules the earth right now, it's hard to see the physical evidence to prove Christ, right? You know what I mean? And then so you have the book,
Even if
and then we
evil,
can,
even if evil didn't run things, like, let's say every nation was not evil but good. People were just helping their neighbors and
okay.
doing all kinds of good, right? Evil or no evil, why does Jesus deserve our faith? And if so, why?
That's a good question. I do put my faith in Christ. Um, but it is like this thing that's out there where you don't really have a like you don't have there's no way you can measure it. You can't measure Christ.
Why do you
Biblically,
put your
okay,
faith
he
in him?
sacrificed himself because I believe based on what I see in the world, I see the biblical story in the world, and usually I look for the evil more than anything else. So like you do the show, and a lot of times you're looking for God, and there's a verse that talks about how in the there'll be a wicked and adulterous generation who will look for God, and there'll be no signs. And then so I think about that, and it's like I
No, it
feel,
says an evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign,
yes,
but
yes,
none
yes,
will
that,
be given to that
yes.
generation except the sign that was given to the prophet Jonah or other things like that. Um,
And
so
wait, what
you
was the sign?
hmm?
What was the sign that was given
Depends
to
on which
prophet?
passage you're reading, but one of the passages that says no sign will be given except the sign that was given to the prophet Jonah, who was in the belly of the well for 3 days. In the same way, the Son of Man will be 3 days in the earth, and then he'll
Which verse is
rise
that?
again. I'm not sure if that's John or I'm not. I don't know.
Okay, okay. I don't remember which one I was using. So there's multiple verses that have that same wording.
Uh, I don't know if that's in the synoptics or if that's just in John, but if it's in the
Okay.
synoptics, then yeah, you'll find that maybe more than one time. But an evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign. So you're saying sometimes I'm on this podcast and I'm asking for a sign from God.
Right.
Um, I'm asking you. You said your faith is in Jesus. I'm asking, why does he deserve your faith?
So that's a good that's a really good question. I think about that, to be honest. Because like I think last time I was on, you were talking about how the New Testament works against the Old Testament in a number of ways. Um,
Mhm.
and then some people only follow the Torah, which is kind of crazy to me because like if you're following the Torah, are you putting people to death for various
Mm,
sins? But that's a
mm,
whole other conversation.
yeah.
Um, but the Jesus thing is interesting. I I believe in some Messiah. of some kind.
Hmm. Why?
I believe there is great good. I believe there's some level of balance in the energy of the spiritual energy of this universe. And right now we are faced with tremendous spiritual evil, and it
More
feels
than any
like,
other time in history, or has it always been kind of dark and light at war?
I don't know if it's more than any time in history, but I feel like it's greater in the sense, and it probably, I would say, oh, maybe before the flood or something like that, as in the time of Noah. Or I don't think it's been as bad in the past few centuries or so as it is now, because we have such a global power like the United States, and like we can just go and just like, oh, they got oil, let's, they're bad people, and just like basically do whatever we want and go after their resources. Like we can just do evil across the globe. Like, oh, this person's a dictator, we gotta take him out. Like there's such widespread evil, and on top of that, the way they're setting up this system is like in a way to enslave everyone to their global banking system. Um, you
Tito,
know,
look, I'm sorry. Tito, I just let you know. I typed something in the chat. Just let you know I'm bringing you in soon. So don't hang up. I'm sorry. I'm God's advocate. I'm trying to be patient and listen, but I'm.
hold on, you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah, your mic's a little weird.
Should be better now, right?
Okay, yeah. Go for
Sorry
it.
about that. So two things. I don't know if you heard me, Tito. I put a message to you in the chat. I'm bringing you in a minute. God's advocate. I want to kind of wrap this up here only because some of the things that you're saying, I don't disagree with in terms of what's going on in the world and how dark things are and the idea of the dark and the light. And there seems to be this battle. And I don't know that I've heard anything in the call that helps me know why you trust a Jesus or why I should trust a Jesus. And so some of the other things you're talking about may be good for another call, but I'm gonna move on to Tito right now.
That's fair.
I like the fact that some of the questions were questions that you were like, oh, it's a good question. Maybe I need to think about that. Hopefully you'll think about those things, and the next time you call, you might have even some clearer answers on some of those things the next time.
All right.
Appreciate you for calling them, man.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Get with you. You too. Thank you guys for letting me know the mic was messing up. It does that sometimes. But let me go ahead and bring in Tito's been waiting patiently. Thank you so much for being here and even having the camera on. That's always a plus. What's up, Tito? Tito, can you hear me? Your mic is not muted, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I can't hear.
I hear you now. Can you hear me? You still can't hear me? We hear you fine. Say something else.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you fine. The problem is you hearing me, I think. I'm typing in the chat.
Okay, I hear you now. I hear you good.
Oh, you hear me now? Okay, so maybe, I don't know what happened, but. Okay, so Tito, real quick, some housekeeping. Do you have any headphones? Okay, I hear you. Oh, you hear me now? Okay, so maybe. Okay, so Tito, real quick, some housekeeping. Do you have any? Yeah, so I can tell you what's happening.
I do.
So Tito, if you could put your headphones in, that will stop the feedback, and then also turn off YouTube and only deal with me in the studio.
I do.
All right, so he's delayed because he's watching on YouTube, so he'll get that message in a few seconds, and hopefully make some corrections.
I can't hear.
Can you hear me now? 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Sorry about this, y'all. We will work it out.
I can't hear.
You can't hear? I'm gonna type a message in the chat. Let me see. One, two, 1 2.
Me now?
Am I coming through? I hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me. You still can't hear me, right? Okay, he's typing in the chat. Sorry, y'all.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you, but I don't think you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I'm not getting any feedback from you.
Can you hear me? All right. Last thing, let me see. What can I tell him?
All right.
Oh, I know. I think I know what the problem is. I'm just typing him some instructions. Sorry. Last thing you need to do is lastly, you need to select your headphones as the output source. All right, so hopefully he'll get these instructions and make some corrections, and then we'll dive in. Meanwhile, in the chat, yeah, it has been on some Phil Bro type time today for most of these calls, hasn't it? Aside from the first one, which was a staunch Calvinist. And I'm not going to try to say I'm doing better against the Phil Bro types, but I have been doing a little bit of self-study, and I think I'm able to exist in those conversations a little cleaner than in the past. So Tito's trying to figure out how to select his headphones as the output source. If he can figure that out, then we'll have a conversation. If not, we'll have to move on. MC Time, appreciate that, says, be good, like you since the first time I saw you with Matt Dillahunty a year or two ago, but my boy is on and I feel bad, but I gotta go.
I'm gonna have to come back. I can't hear. I'm not getting.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know how to
sorry.
set this up.
Maybe. Yeah, sorry, my guy.
I just try
Sorry.
to plug in again later.
All right. Sorry about that. Maybe I should write out some instructions that I can just copy and paste to people, but I'm not exactly sure. I think I know what his problem was, but I don't necessarily know how to tell him to fix it. I was trying to understand what he was saying here. But my boy is on and I feel bad, but I gotta go. I'm not sure what that part means, but either way, appreciate you sliding through and checking out the stream. I typically go for about 3 hours. We're at 2.5. And I think I did what? 3 calls today? So maybe we'll get one more. If you're a theist out there and you'd like to call in, I'll put the link in the chat one more again. If you're on Facebook, it's the top comment. If you're on Instagram, go to my bio If you are not a theist, if you're agnostic or atheist, and you want to maybe call in and just sound off real quick on some of the calls you heard today, feel free. I could take one or two of those calls maybe. We'll make it real quick. Or if you're a theist and you don't necessarily want to call about the topic, whether Jesus deserves our faith, maybe you've got some other question, maybe you're struggling with something, or you want to know my view on something, and you want to call and talk about something that's a little off topic, I will even allow for that for the last call of the day. So this is the last call for alcohol. And if no one calls, then I will get on with my evening. We will have some new shirts coming, I think tomorrow, actually. So tune in. You'll get a chance to get the preview of the new shirt. That'll be in the store. Like I said, this Saturday, October 1st, I'm going to be doing a Conversations with Christians with apologist Derek Colon, who called in a few weeks ago. Let's bring Tito back and see if we can make it work. Tito, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I definitely can. And there's no feedback. So I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you're here. Tito, correct me if I'm wrong. This is our first time talking, correct?
Yes, we've talked once through IG years ago when you made your announcement.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So if you can let me and the viewers know, where are you at with the God question? Are you theist, atheist, agnostic?
I'm a believer in the gospel. I believe in
the gospel.
Jesus.
So a Christian. And if you watch this show, you know, but I have one follow-up question. Is the Bible God's word for you? Can you hear me? Did you lose it? Oh no, we were doing so well. Can you hear me? You can't hear me, can you? That old devil, see? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me, Tito? I don't know what happened, bro. I didn't do anything. I don't know.
I don't know what happened there.
I think you did. I saw your finger. I saw your finger hit the screen. You were doing something, and my voice went out. I'm gonna type again. Maybe try to go out and come back in one last time. Maybe if you try to go out and back in one more time, we will get it. One, two, 1, 2. Okay, he's going to sign out and come back. And hopefully that'll do the trick. Hey, but for everybody who's been watching, thank you all for checking out this stream today. Hopefully we'll get this last call in. But while you're here, be sure to like. That way YouTube says, oh, maybe more people will like it, and they'll suggest it to other people. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. You can hype these videos on my channel. That will help get us more visibility. All right. And Tito should be calling back in any second now. Without Faith, what's up? I didn't get a chance to greet you. Atheist Black woman, good to see you. I got to do another premiere one day so I can be one of the people in the chat instead of being the guy that's on the screen. Because y'all be having all this fun and conversation and community in the chat, and I don't get a chance to benefit from any of that. Okay, Tito, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Don't touch your phone, because I saw your finger go to the screen, and whatever you did, you couldn't hear anymore after that. So don't touch anything.
I'm not tech savvy.
All right, well, let's try to dive into it. Thank you so much for calling back and for being patient. The prompt on the screen, Jesus doesn't deserve our faith. I'm assuming you disagree.
I do disagree.
Oh, I was asking you before we had the tech issue. The Bible is the word of God for you?
Yes.
And is the Bible inerrant or infallible?
Inerrant.
Inerrant. Okay. So you think Jesus deserves our faith. Can you tell me why?
I do believe he deserves our faith because he is worthy.
Yeah,
Because
but
of the
that's
person.
okay.
So
That's a
the person,
tautology. He deserves it because he's worthy. Why is he worthy?
because of who he is and what he has done. All right.
How do we
So
know who he is?
based on the word.
Okay. So give me an example.
All right. So an example, take Genesis. The Bible
Mhm.
tells us in Genesis that God was going to send a seed. That seed was going to crush the serpent's head.
Doesn't
When we
say
get
God's going to
to,
send a seed. It just simply tells the woman that her seed is going to have strife with the serpent.
yes, but from God. This was God's plan. So
It
he's the
didn't say
one
anything about
who,
God. It didn't say anything about God sending a seed. It simply says um, that your seed, your child, your offspring is going to bruise. It says, I'm going to put enmity between your seed and the seed of the serpent, and the serpent is going to strike the heel of your seed, and he's going to crush the serpent's head. How do you know, Tito? I'm just curious. How do you know that that verse, Genesis 3:15, that is not simply saying humans and snakes are going to dislike each other, which is something that happens worldwide? How do you know that it's not simply ideology trying to explain in an agrarian culture that people are in the fields all day, and then you got this sneaky little snake that strikes them, and then they step? How do you know that it's not just ideology explaining a very natural occurrence? Why does it have to be this cosmic prophecy about Jesus?
my answer is because of the one who said it. Okay. And then the way the Bible unfolds. If you look at the
Hold on,
Bible,
hold on, wait. Let's deal with the first thing first. You, the one who said it. Who said
yes,
it?
God.
How do you know God said it? Does God write books?
Why can't he?
I'm not saying he can't. I'm asking you, does he? Have you ever seen God write a book?
Well, we know we none of us have seen him actually write it. It's inspired.
So
So that's where we take it at.
how do we know God said that?
Okay, because the word itself says it. This came from God's mouth. Now, can you challenge it?
No. How
Okay,
do you know? Because you're making a claim that it came from God's mouth. How do you know that? You can believe that. How do you know that? And why do you
because
believe that?
because it says it. So I read it, and what it says is what I take it as.
Tito, do you believe everything you read?
Not everything,
So then why do you believe this?
because it can be proven.
It can be proven that God said that the woman is going to, her child and the snake's children are going to be at enmity with each other. It can be proven that God said that. Can you prove that?
Well, if you look at the whole Bible, if you take the whole
Mhm,
Bible, okay,
mhm.
what does the whole Bible lead up to? What does Genesis claim? That a seed is going to come. If you look at Revelation,
Sorry.
we
We just talked about
okay,
that. Genesis doesn't say a seed is going to come. It says the woman's children and the serpent's children are going to have beef. And the woman's children is going to try to step on the serpent's head, and the serpent is going to strike at the woman's children's feet. Doesn't say anything about a seed coming. It's just talking about how humans and snakes are going to interact.
okay, so he's preparing his creation for the coming of a seed, correct? Yes or no?
Says I is God said, well, the character God in the story, we don't know that an actual God exists. The character God in the story, though, does say, I'm going to put enmity between his your seed and the serpent seed,
Okay. So
and
he's
he's going
preparing
to
us.
crush your head and you're going to strike his heel.
Okay, let me put it another way. Does he announce that a seed is going to come?
So do you think seed is an individual person, or is seed just your children?
It's her children, a
Okay, so
person.
it's not a person, it's the people that are going to come from her, all
O-
of her children.
It's leading to a specific person through her children. Yes,
Okay.
leading to
Um,
a person that's going to do the job of crushing the serpent's head. So when we get
Not the
to,
serpent necessarily, not that serpent, the children of that serpent. Remember, it's her seed and the serpent's seed. So who
Satan,
are the seed Who are the children of the serpent in that story?
It's talking about Satan there.
So
The works
Satan
of
is the
Satan.
seed of the snake in that story?
Satan is the one that Jesus was going to come and crush his works. So on the
Hold on. You
cross,
said the Bible's God's word, right?
it is
Genesis
God's word.
3:15 says, I'm going to put enmity between your seed and the seed of the serpent. Who is the seed of the serpent?
Anyone who doesn't believe in God. So there's two types of people we got. You got
Mhm.
those that believe in God and those who are against God. So if you are with God, you are a seed of God. If you are against God, you're a seed of the serpent.
So the seed of the woman is a human.
The seed of the woman of yes, it is a human.
And the
It's
seed of the
Jesus.
serpent is humans too?
Yes.
Do snakes have human babies?
No.
How is the seed of the serpent humans?
But Brady, you know how this works out, right?
Talk to
You
me.
know how you want a physical snake to give birth to a physical human. Okay. You know that's not what it's talking about there. It's
What is
talking
it talking
about
about?
good and evil. Okay. So the serpent, okay, what did evil try to do against God's people? It tried to destroy it, right?
When? How?
Throughout the Bible. So if we move throughout the pages of scripture, what do you see? You see that evil came into the world through the trickery of Satan. Okay.
No, I don't
And
see
there
that
was
at all in Genesis. I don't see that
okay,
at all.
so you saw the snake tricking Eve, right?
I don't see that at all. The snake did not lie to Eve. Eve said the serpent deceived me. The serpent did not deceive Eve. The serpent told Eve the truth.
What? No, he lied to her.
Yes. What was the lie?
The lie was that he twisted
What was the
God's
lie?
commandment that
What
she
was the
wasn't gonna
lie?
die, that she wasn't gonna die.
Was that a lie or was that the truth?
Did she die? She died, right? So he
Why
did
did
tell
she
her the
die?
truth.
Why did she die? Why did God
Bec-
say that they would? Hold on. Why did God say they were going to die? And then why did they die?
Because if they violated God's command, they would die. So when they ate the fruit,
Nope.
they
Nope.
died. So what
Nope.
is it?
Nope.
Okay, so help
So
me understand.
here's the thing. Many Christians, like me, when I was a Christian, many Christians read New Testament theology into Genesis, but you don't find that anywhere in the Old Testament. When God says that you must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, for the day you eat of that tree, you will surely die. That wasn't God commanding them saying, if you do it, I'm going to kill you. What that passage is actually saying is that's a poisonous tree. Don't eat. The day you eat from that tree, it's going to cause you to die. And the serpent says that's not true. If you eat from the tree, God knows the day you eat from that tree, your eyes are going to be open and you're going to become like God, knowing good and evil, which is exactly what happened because they eat from the tree. The narrator says their eyes were open. They understood they were naked. And then a few verses later, God says to some others, we don't know who they are, God says, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. They did not die from eating the tree like God said. It wasn't a prohibition like if you eat it, the penalty is death. The command was, hey, I'm on your side. I'm trying to help you out. That tree is poisonous. Don't eat from it. The day you eat from it, you're going to die. And then they eat and their eyes are open. And when God finds out, God says, wait, who told you were naked? How do you know? Oh, you must have ate from the tree that I told you not to eat from, because now you know the difference between good and evil. And then God runs off and has a private chat with his crew, like, hey, they like us now. They know good from evil. That's the way the Genesis story goes. That's not the way the New Testament authors, particularly Paul, spin it.
If you leave Genesis and cut it off right there and you don't have the rest of the Bible, I see how you can come to that conclusion.
Well,
But
hold on, real quick.
you can't leave the
Hold
rest
on.
of the Bible
Hold
out.
on. Remember what you're going to say.
Okay.
It's not just if you cut off Genesis right there. If you look at the cognate stories that Genesis chapter 2 and 3 took pieces of, you see this very idea. You see a serpent in the Enuma Elish coming up and taking the tree of youthfulness away from Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh went on this quest to find the tree that was going to keep him eternally young, found it, and then a serpent comes up and steals it. In another story, Adapa and the Food of Life, Adapa's God tells Adapa, hey, when this other God calls you into his office, don't eat the food because it's going to be poisonous. It's the food of death. And it was a lie that Adapa's God was telling him. Adapa goes in. Adapa gets offered the food of life. It's called Adapa and the Food of Life. That's the name of the myth. The God offers Adapa the food of life. And then Adapa says, no, my God told me that that food is going to kill me. So no, I'm not going to take it. And the funny thing about it is in Adapa and the Food of Life, there's also a serpent character who tells the God before Adapa comes in, hey, you know, Adapa's like us. When Adapa's God made him, he gave Adapa wisdom like the gods. The only thing Adapa doesn't have is immortality. So you should give him immortality. And the other God is like, oh, cool. All right. Adapa comes in and the God offers him the food of life. But Adapa's like, no, my God told me this food is going to kill me. I'm not going to eat it. And the story really is Adapa's God tricked Adapa out of the food of life because Adapa had wisdom like the gods. Unlike Adam, Adam didn't have wisdom or immortality. For Adam, wisdom and immortality was wrapped up in the trees. But in Adapa and the Food of Life, his God made him with wisdom, but then his God tricked him out of immortality. In the Eden story, they eat from the tree that gave them wisdom, but their God was trying to trick them either out of wisdom or trick them out of immortality. That's the way I read Genesis because of all of this. So I want you to finish what you were saying. I'm sorry, I know I said a whole lot, but you said if you read Genesis and stop right there, you can see how I'm getting what I'm getting. But it's not just Genesis. I'm getting it from the context of the culture. But then when you get to the rest of the Bible, you don't get any of the stuff that you're going to say it means until you get to the New Testament. Nobody else in the whole Hebrew Bible, which Christians call the Old Testament, nobody else in the whole Hebrew Bible spins Genesis chapter 2 and 3 the way Christians do. That's something that came much later.
Well, not true. Because if
Okay,
you
talk
look
to me.
at the genealogies, all right, where does where does Luke trace it back to? All the way to the garden, Adam, right? So the Adam
Hold on.
story is tied to the gospel.
I just said nobody in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament,
Okay.
spins Genesis the way that Christians do. The New Testament does.
Okay. So are Hebrews, the Hebrew people, the translators of what the Bible says? Or could they
Depends on
have
which
been
version of the Hebrew
incomplete?
Bible you're reading, because the Greek Septuagint doesn't really get all the nuance of the Hebrew Bible. So if you're like the New Testament authors, many of the New Testament authors were not reading the Hebrew Bible, they were reading the Greek Septuagint, which is a translation of the Hebrew Bible, which misses
Hebrew
a
Bible.
lot of the nuances of the Hebrew Bible.
It actually holds the story well together. There's no
Okay.
inconsistencies there. If you read
Tons of
Genesis,
inconsistencies, but go ahead.
not inconsistencies, all right?
Okay.
There's a fulfillment. You see a promise and you see Jesus fulfilling that promise when you get to Revelation, okay? So it's a complete story. And how that story happens is unfolded in each one of the books. So each one of the authors is bringing a story to reveal to mankind who this seed is and what that plan is. So as you go along the stories, if you read the Torah, what do you have in the Torah? You have the first 5 books of the Bible, right? But the Torah is incomplete because they haven't received that land yet. So the story's not fulfilled yet. Okay, Joshua takes them into the land. All right, what happens in the land? There's still a problem. There's sin. Okay, that's why you have the prophets. They come and warn the people. You have sinned against God. What happens? They keep sinning. What are we looking for? We're looking for this seed to bring us back to God, who is Jesus, who fulfills that promise from Genesis. So this is why I believe the Bible, because the Bible tells the truth and it fulfills it. I don't need to know.
Wait. You say it tells a truth? Like, what is the truth that it tells? Like, it makes a claim. Even if I allowed that Genesis 3:15 is about can you hear me?
Are you good, buddy?
Even if I allowed that Genesis 3:15 is a prophecy about some Messiah who's going to come, you say it tells a truth. how do you know that it's a truth? How do you, and not just a claim?
Okay. Let's look at it like this. Genesis 3:15 reveals a problem that I have with God. I think I'm
What's the problem?
wise. I think I'm wise, and I have a problem with sin.
You think you're
Okay.
wise, or are you wise? Like, hold on. Adam
I
and Eve.
think I'm wise.
Did Adam and Eve become wise when they ate from the tree?
No, they sinned. They went in their own wisdom. They didn't gain wisdom.
So, but you disagree with the Bible. You know that, right?
I don't disagree with the Bible. I agree with it.
Hold on. What did God say to his associates? The man has become like what?
He said has become like one of us,
Knowing good and evil, right?
knowing good and evil. They didn't
Is
know
that a step?
evil.
Hold on. If
Okay.
they didn't know good either, all right? They became knowledgeable about good and evil, and that made them like one of us. Is that a
Mhm.
step up for mankind or a step down? Is becoming more like God's a step up or a step down?
We think it's a step up, but it wasn't because we obtained
Hold
death.
on. God said the man has become like one of us. And you're saying that's a step down to become like God?
We didn't know evil.
We didn't
Before
know
that,
good either.
we did know good. Everything
It was
around
the
us was
tree of
good.
the knowledge of good and evil.
Think about this,
And then
Brandon.
God's, hold, wait.
Okay.
God says to his associates, the man has become like us, knowing good and evil, which means the man did not know good or evil before they ate from the tree.
Okay.
Would you agree?
That it says that, yes. So help me
But would
understand
you
your
agree?
argument. I do agree the Bible says that, yes. Help me
Okay.
understand the argument that you're disproving on my end.
What I'm arguing is that for the Genesis story originally, mankind did not fall. They raised up too high for God's liking. There are two things that make humans like the gods: wisdom and immortality. And the God of the Bible in Genesis 2 and 3 did not want the mankind to have both of those. You can maybe get one, but you can't get both. Once mankind got one, God had to remove access to the other. So eating from the tree did not cause them to die. You know why they died in Genesis 3? They died because, well, not in Genesis 3, but why the humans become susceptible to death? It's not because they ate from the tree. It's because God blocked their access to their source to immortality. God blocked their access to the tree of life. Matter of fact, when God says to his associates, the man has become like one of us, knowing both good and evil. Now, therefore, lest he put forth his hand and take also from the tree of life. And then the verse doesn't even end. It's like, wait, we got to rush to make sure they don't get eternal life too. They become like one of us by knowing good and evil. They'll become even more like one of us if they get immortality. We got to put a stop to that. Genesis 2 and 3 is just a story about how mankind got knowledge but didn't get immortality. It's a story that people were telling about how we know good and evil. How come we can't live forever? They had their story, and all the cultures around them had their stories, and they borrowed from each other, and they amended the story, and they changed it. But it's called ideology. Ideology is like when I was a kid, we used to say, when it's raining and the sun shining at the same time, that means the devil's beating his wife. Why? Because we didn't know anything about meteorology. We didn't know what happened. Like we thought that rain meant it had to be gray clouds, a gray sky. But if it's sunny and raining, we had to make up a reason as to why that could happen. That's called ideology. Ideology is what's the reason? And when you don't know the reason, you hypothesize a reason or you tell a story about the reason. That's what Genesis is in its original context. It's ideology. Why do women have pain in childbirth? Oh, they must have done something bad back at the beginning of time. And you tell a story to explain that. Otherwise, you really think God punished all women for something Eve did. No, this is ideology. They're making up stories to explain the world around them because they're not thinking scientifically. They don't know why things are the way that they are. So they tell stories to explain it to themselves.
So I hear your logic. Okay. I hear the point that you're getting to. Okay. This Genesis 3 matters because this is where the first lie was told, and humankind has continued to believe the lies of Satan because they don't trust that God was being truthful. Okay. Here's the problem I hear with your logic, okay, about good and evil. Okay.
Mhm.
We know what evil is, right? We don't have to try to figure that out. We can just look at man and understand evil, right? We understand man kills, we understand man steals, he lies, he takes, he hurts people. We can turn on the news and understand that. Now let's talk about love. Let's talk about good. Okay. How has man done when it comes to good and loving? Have we done that well or have we failed at that? Now we're good at doing evil. We're experts at that. But what about when love? Okay. Let's talk about that. Okay. Well, continue
Are you
eating.
saying?
I'll
Are you
continue
saying?
talking.
Are you saying that we don't love?
That's exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what's the purpose of this whole Bible? Okay. It's for the glory of God. You know that because you're a Westminster graduate, right? I'm I'm telling am I right on that?
I knew that before I went to Westminster, but go ahead.
Okay, so you're pretty educated and you know what I'm talking about. So when I say that mankind was created for the glory and glory of God alone, okay, what has the Bible demonstrated to us that no other book, no other ideology, no other story can explain to us? It's love. Love is what distinguishes the Bible from every other book. Why? And this is why where the worth of Jesus comes into play. Okay. You take God the creator, okay? He creates man, okay, in his image. Man fails, okay? He doesn't meet up to that standard. So, how does God, who is perfectly loving, demonstrate the greatest example of love? He becomes like the creature that he created in the form of Jesus, goes under his creation, lays his life down for his creation and by his creation, so that he can save the very creature that has taken his son's life. Now, you show me a greater example of love in any story in history.
Do you think
Okay.
it was loving for God the Father to send his son to be beaten and bloodied and bludgeoned and crucified? Do you think it was loving for God to do that to his son?
It shows how much he loved us. But
Right,
now
right, right.
Jesus
I get
wasn't
that, but
forced.
do you think it was
Jesus wasn't
loving for God?
forced.
I understand, but do you think it was loving for God the Father to do that to the Son?
For the Father to send his son to the cross was a painful thing. Did it hurt? Yes. But we're
Do you think it
talking
was
about
loving is my question.
yes, I think it was loving.
So you think in loving the Son, the Father said, I'm going to crucify you, and that's how I love you.
Yes, because the son was going to get a reward, a people who were going to belong to his son, because the father was pleased with what his son had done.
Don't all
So
things belong to God anyway?
they do belong to God.
So why go through this ruse so that people can belong to the Son if everything belongs to him anyway?
Because within the Trinity, you have no sin. You have a perfect community between Father, Son, and Spirit. If you look at man, we struggle when it comes to our relationships. But when you look at the Trinity, you have a perfect example of love between Father, Son, and Spirit. No jealousy, no envy, no hatred towards each other, all working for the same purpose and plan. Now, you show me a man or a group or a community that can actually do this without selfish jealousy or envy coming up in the midst of that group.
Do
You
you know
won't
what
find it.
altruism is?
Altruism? I don't know, I'll
Mhm.
be honest.
Altruism is what the word we use to describe selfless acts. When people do
Okay.
selfless acts, even animals,
Okay.
animals do it for other animals. Animals do it for humans. Humans do it for animals. Humans do it for humans. Do you think humans can commit selfless acts?
I do, absolutely. A
Do you
soldier
think
can
that
do it, a firefighter can do it, absolutely.
do you think that people can do selfless acts out of love?
I do, absolutely. We see it
So
all the time.
so so how is God the Father bloodying and bludgeoning and crucifying God the Son? How is that more loving than the altruistic acts that people do for each other all the time?
Because the worth of us, the value of us and Jesus are totally different. You're talking about a son who perfectly lived the law that we couldn't live versus me. So I'll give you an example. Let me paint a picture for you with this. Your question is good. If I, Tito, let's say I'm a firefighter, I go and do a selfless act and lay my life down for somebody else
Hmm.
who's in danger, okay? And I die while I'm doing that, okay? That is what you're talking about. I did something selfless for somebody else. That's a great
Hmm.
deed. But when I stand before an eternal God, I'm only 44 years old. My
Hmm.
44 years worth of goodness does not equal to an eternal creator who has always been good. So when you take the life of Jesus, okay,
Hmm.
he came in the form of man, yet he was still eternally God. He lived a perfect life, but when he stands before God, he's equal to God. So he can represent me as a man before an eternal creator. This is why he deserves to be worshiped.
Tito, can I tell you how Jesus' own logic disagrees with you?
Bring it on, brother. That's why I'm
Jesus
here.
is eternal, right?
He's eternal.
Unlike Adam and Eve, Jesus did not need a tree of life to live forever. He has eternal life within himself, right?
He does have eternal life within himself.
And Jesus said, "No one takes my life, but I lay it down. And if I lay it up, I have the power to take it up again," right?
Yes, absolutely.
So if Jesus is eternal and has the power to take his life up again, and all he lost was a weekend because he went to the cross and was in the grave for 3 days, Jesus' sacrifice is much less worth yours or mine or the firefighter who goes in to a burning building. Jesus' sacrifice means nothing compared to that. You know why? Because Jesus said, remember when the widow gave her 2 mites and all these other people were tithing and they were giving, and Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, this woman gave more than all y'all." And they're like, "How? She only gave 2 mites." And Jesus said, "You all gave out of your abundance. She gave out of her lack." Well, Jesus, if he's eternal, guess what he gave his life out of? His eternal abundance. He gave 3 days out of eternity. Whereas if you, me, or a firefighter gives our lives, we gave out of our lack. We gave our 2 mites. So Jesus' death is not more worthy based on his own logic. The person that has less to give and still gives it actually gives more.
I hear what you're saying. We still don't equal up to Jesus' life, though. And I'll explain why. I explain why.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
First of
I'm
all,
trying to help you. I'm trying to help you
no,
think through
no,
this thing here, bro. Go ahead.
nah. I listen to you. I hear you. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk. I've been
No, I
wanting to come
appreciate the
on here
call. It's all
forever,
good.
but you,
Hmm.
but you see, I'm not tech savvy, so it took me forever to figure out how to even get on the call. And then when I
It's
get
all
on the
good.
call, I still can't plug in. So I appreciate the time.
No, it's all good.
And listen, I've known you for years since Cross Movement. I know you. I know
Okay.
your studies, all right, and I know you're very well educated in the things of God. Okay, so I appreciate you having this conversation with me. When it comes to me and Jesus, okay, what separates me and Jesus? Okay, my act
Mhm.
versus his act. Okay, first of all, it's our value. Okay, when Jesus came to this earth, okay, he set aside the fact that he was God. He didn't consider something being equal with God something to be grasped, and he took on the form of a human, a servant. That was why he came in the flesh. Okay, when Jesus came to be a servant, he came to live the life I could not live by obeying God's perfect law, having no other gods before God, not taking God's name in vain, remembering the Sabbath, not killing, not stealing, not murdering. He didn't do any of those things.
How do you know?
Me. Okay, I'll answer that,
I'm
but let
sorry, I
me
didn't mean to
finish
interrupt
my
you.
train
I'm
of
just
thought.
thinking. Go
No,
ahead. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Hmm.
Me, I'm guilty of putting things before God. I'm guilty of lying. I'm guilty of adultery. I'm guilty of coveting. I have violated God's law, meaning I don't equal who God is. Jesus came on my behalf and did what I could not do. So his value is much more higher than mine. But he's a servant. So he has to go under, become low, in order to be able to take my place. So
Mm.
going back to Genesis, remember in Genesis, when Adam and Eve had sinned, okay, we see a picture and a sign of what? An animal covering Adam and Eve when they're kicked out of the garden, pointing to a future Messiah who is going to do exactly that, who is Jesus, the Lamb who came to die for the sins of the world. So that's why I believe the Bible. It's a
First of all, we have
it's
no indication that there's animals slain so that they can have a covering. God could have sheared a sheep and the sheep fur could have grew back. We don't know how God covered them with animal skins.
well, it says it right there.
No, it doesn't say God killed an animal. It just says God took an animal and made
What
skins
what
from the
what, what
animal.
did he use? He covered them, right? What did he cover them
Right,
with?
but there's not necessarily a sacrifice or an animal being killed.
Okay, so let's just take that the idea of an animal. We still see
Mhm.
there's a covering, right? There's an atonement being made. That's the picture that Jesus is still fulfilling. Okay, so when we look at
I think
my
you're
life,
using
because
covering in two different ways. You're equivocating the covering of God made clothes for them, and then this idea of God covering our sins. That's two different kinds of covering. But go ahead.
well, it's a foreshadow. So it's a picture of something greater, okay, to help
Mhm.
us understand because we don't understand the mind of God. So God writes it down in a book so we can understand and study and grasp that. Books are important, Brady, and I'm going to tell you why. Nothing you do in life you can do without a book. If you're going to become a doctor, you need a book. If you're going to become a mechanic, you need a book. You're going to study philosophy, what do? You go to books. So if we want to know who God
I just
is,
buried my
God,
grandmother. Her husband was a mechanic. He swapped cars, swapped engines out of cars, but he never read a book. Never graduated high school. Didn't need a book.
okay, he's that one guy out of a million people.
It happens
But
all
you
the
go
time. But
you go
anyway,
you go to
Mhm.
college, okay? You go to
Mhm.
college, what do? You go through a book. Now, he may have not written a book, but I bet you when he goes to AutoZone, those guys are reading a book. So a book comes into play somewhere. All right? You just don't figure things out on your own. We need instructions in everything that we do in life, right? Even
I
if
mean,
he
you
didn't
you
have
you
a book,
people figure things out all the time without books,
okay, even if he didn't
and
have
then
a book,
and then
just
they
say he
write
didn't
books
have
after
a
they figure
book.
things out for other people. But go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, it just goes to my point. That's why discipleship is important. He was apprenticed under somebody else, right? Somebody taught him, hey, this is how you do this. This is the same thing the Bible teaches apprenticeship, discipleship. This is what Jesus told us to go and do go and make disciples of the nations. All right. So we have it written down in a book that gives us instructions on how this looks like. The book there ain't no error in any of the message that I find in the book. Now, if you're thinking of
There's
yes, sir, I'm listening.
there's errors all. Well, you said you think the Bible's inerrant, right?
Yes, there's no
If there
there's
were
no
errors,
error in the message of the gospel. Now,
so
it,
in
it
the beginning, when God creates the heavens and the earth, do you think that that's actually true? You think the first verse of the Bible is God's first creative act?
yes, I do. You
And you
have
think
time,
Genesis
space, and
one?
matter.
You think
You have
Genesis one
time.
one is how? Um, so real quick, um, what came first in the Bible, the earth or the sun?
The earth of the you tripping me up on my memory right now, Brady. I'll be honest with you.
Well, what's
But
the first verse of the Bible?
well, light came in first. God created light came into play first. Light was needed.
Well, no. So you said you think Genesis 1:1 is that's how the everything started. In the beginning, God created the
God
heavens and the
created the
earth.
heavens and the earth. Yes, sir. I do.
So I'm just asking, in the Bible, what came first, the earth or the sun? And it may be hard if you're thinking maybe the sun was part of the heavens, but if you don't, in the Bible, because the Bible goes on and a few verses later, it tells you that God made the sun on day 4. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have to pull my Bible up to look
Yeah.
at everything by memory, but I don't disagree with the Bible. And help me
Right. So
understand how this changes the message of the gospel. Help
Right.
me
Well,
understand how that affects
it
that.
does in this sense, because in John 1:1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God." It talks about how everything that was made, nothing that was made was not made without the Word, and Jesus is that Word. So it's saying that everything that happened in the beginning, like John 1:1, is sort of a recapitulation of Genesis 1:1, right?
Yes.
And everything that God did in Genesis 1:1, maybe the whole chapter of Genesis 1, John 1 is giving Jesus credit for everything that happened in Genesis. So if we could show that what Genesis says happened couldn't have happened, then that takes credibility away from Jesus, because John says everything you saw in Genesis 1, John 1:1 says Jesus did all that, right?
Mhm.
So in Genesis 1, God makes the earth first and then the sun on day 4. However, we, in our limited abilities, have gotten to the point that we can now date our earth and date our sun. And
Okay.
turns out, what do you think when we study cosmology, what do you think we have discovered is older, the earth or the sun?
I have no idea, to be
Take a
honest.
guess. Take a guess. Cosmologists, astrophysicists, poking around at the stars with telescopes and finding out how light shifts and bends and making the measurements. What do you think they've discovered about the order of things? The earth came first or the sun came first?
I'm gonna say the earth came first, because on day 3, that's when
Nope.
the waters. What
Nope.
does it say?
So what we've discovered is our sun is older than our earth.
I'm gonna challenge you on that one. I'm gonna tell you why. Because in order to do that, you have to have a measurement. And how old do they say the sun is?
Does our sun, I think, is around uh, 5 billion years old, and our Earth is around 4.5 billion years old, something like that.
I'm gonna challenge that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Show me
Okay.
something else that is 4 billion years old that you can measure to that. You need a
The
measurement to
moon.
be able. Okay, what can you measure next to the moon? What do you have to measure the moon in its
Meteors from outer
age?
space. Meteors
How
from
do
outer
you
space
measure
that
that?
land here.
Show me something
You
that's
you
millions
can
of
date
years old.
you can date the decay rate of certain elements. There's all kind of ways to measure
Bro,
what's
wait.
happening in the heavenly bodies.
Think about this now. That doesn't make
Okay.
sense. And science is not a perfect. Science helps you understand things, but science cannot answer philosophy, religion, none of those things. It can only be
We're not
observed.
talking. We're just talking about the claim that the
Okay.
earth was made before the sun. And I'm
Okay.
saying, if we're finding out that that's not how things happen, matter of fact, you can look out into space through telescopes and you can see planets forming around their stars. That's just how it
That's
goes.
awesome. That's
And so hold on.
amazing.
But if that's the case, that we see planets forming around their stars, and then we happen to be circling a star ourselves, wouldn't reason suggest that maybe our planet formed around our star too, just like the other ones?
You got a hypothesis there. You ain't got truth. That's a what if. What I got is a Bible with men who have experienced God. Now, think about this. You're looking at something that cannot
Tito,
communicate. Listen, Brady, hear me out.
go ahead,
You
go ahead, go ahead.
can a son communicate with you? Can it
Depends on what you
talk
mean
or
by
speak?
communicate. It
Can it
depends about what you
speak
mean by
or
communicate.
write? Can the son
Well,
speak or write?
according to your Bible, it says day unto day pours forth speech. There's no place where the sun shines that it's not communicating something. So clearly the sun can communicate.
Yes, it communicates that there's a creator. That's Psalm 19. Now, the son,
How come
the
the sun
son.
can communicate what you wanted to communicate, but it can't communicate its age to us?
Now you know that's poetry there. But listen. The idea, okay? If I look at the sun cannot speak to me and tell me God exists. All it can reveal is there is a creator. That's what that psalm is talking about, okay? Now, we have men who have experienced and communicated with God himself, okay? Men on our level who have the same level of communication. Why would I want to look at the Son, who does not have the ability to communicate, talk, write, or speak to me directly, as evidence to tell me how everything exists when I have men who have actually dealt with the Creator? I would
I have a
rather
great
talk.
answer. That's a
Okay.
Tito, that's a great question. Here's
Okay.
why you would want to listen to men who are measuring the radiation coming from the sun and measuring what's happening with the moon and meteors and the earth. Here's why you would want to listen to them. Because based on their findings, you know what you can do? It's not just that their findings have explanatory power, they have something else that's very important. They have predictive power. Once you have a good, not just hypothesis, but you get to the point of having a theory, which means you've not been able, you've tried and tried and tried. You've developed really good tests to falsify your hypothesis, and you've not been able to hypothesize it. To falsify it. What you end up saying is, damn, after I tried, they tried, my enemies, the people over here that are fighting for the same grants that they tried. All of us have tried to falsify this hypothesis, and we cannot falsify it. What you end up having is you gain predictive power. If this thing is so reliable that we can predict things by it, we can now advance as a species because we now know what to expect. That's why you might want to listen to these men, because what the scientific method is looking for is predictability. How can I plan based on what I understand about these things? What you can't do based on the Bible is predict anything. Matter of fact, all of its predictions fail. The
That's
Christian
not true,
religion,
brother.
Tito, listen to me. We don't have time to do it now.
I'm listening. I'm
3.5
listening
hours.
to you. I'm gonna let you finish.
The Christian religion is an attempt to make the prophecies of the Hebrew Bible that Christians call the Old Testament. The Christian religion is an attempt to make those prophecies not fail when they clearly have. All the things that God said to Israel he was going to do to restore them, to put them back in their land and give them a new covenant. Christians come along and say, damn, it's been so long and nothing has happened. We've got to reinterpret what those prophecies were. And we're going to say this is the new covenant, but this new covenant is not going to look anything like Isaiah said it was going to look like, or Jeremiah or Ezekiel. And if we had time, I would show you how all of the prophecies about that Christians think are about Jesus do not apply to him. And the things that God said he was going to do for Israel, all of them fail. You've got no predictive power through Christianity. You've got tons of predictive power just by using our minds and our five senses and the scientific method and trying to figure out what can we know about our reality.
And we test those?
Yes, we test them all the time. Tito,
No, I'm
you're
saying
talking to me.
me and you. I want to test
Can we
those
test
with
what?
you.
Test
Those
what?
two things. The science about the moon and then the prophecies of the Bible.
Okay, so
Let's
I'm
do it.
on every Monday and Tuesday. It's been 3.5 hours. I got to get ready to break.
Right. I hear you.
Is are Mondays and Tuesdays good for you?
Tuesdays are
You're
perfect.
here
I'm
now.
off, man. Yeah. I
Okay.
can make it, man. But hey,
So
I
if
just
it
wanted
was
to tell you-
earlier in the show, I would love to but it's already over 3 hours and I got to go do my me time.
I feel you. Respect that. Hey, man, I just want to tell you, man, I know even though I don't see eye to eye with you on things, I appreciate you having me on your show. All right.
Hey, thanks for
super
calling,
cool.
man. And thanks for being, conversing and kind and listening and sharing your point of view. I appreciate that.
You got great questions, Brady. You do. And but I do believe that the Bible answers them. And I know you're educated in the scriptures, and you're educated more than most of the people who call in here. You know what you're talking about. All right. I do believe the Bible answers the question for man's problem. We're looking for love. And the greatest demonstration that the Bible shows of love is through the act of a father giving his son for people that didn't deserve it. And I believe
I
that's
hear
the
you, Tito.
purpose. Right?
I hear you. I hear you.
All right, brother. All
Yep.
right,
Hey,
brother.
much love. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again before too much time passes.
Likewise. I'll call back in the future, bro. Thank you for the time, brother.
Sounds good.
Peace.
Much love. Good with
All
you.
right.
All right. So yeah, I'm trying to be good about making sure I don't spend an exorbitant amount of time on here because, like I said, I do have life to live and I want to do that as well. But I got a super chat from Mixtures Monica. Thank you again for the $5 super chat. Random question off topic. What is God's body count? What is God's body count versus Satan's in the Bible? Think God wins on the most unalivings, but I could be wrong. Really, I mean, the only unalivings you see from Satan is Job, Job's family, his kids. Outside of that, Satan doesn't really unalive anyone unless you want to say that was Satan in the garden. And if he's the reason why Adam and Eve lost out on the tree of life, then he is indirectly, maybe you could say directly, he's responsible for all, because Paul says through one man, sin came into the world, and through sin, death, and death spread to all men because all men sinned. So if you're going to put the fall on Satan, which I don't think that Satan is in Genesis 3, but if you think that the snake is Satan, you could make an argument that every death is indirectly part of Satan's body count. But directly, the only people he kills in the Bible, the Satan character, is Job's kids. So, yeah, what can you do? I'll be back on tomorrow. This Saturday, I'll be doing conversations with Christians with Derek Colon, apologist Derek Colon. And I'll decide maybe by tomorrow whether I'm going to do an exit strategy this Thursday, so that I try to keep some days of the week to myself and for me and the family and friends and all that kind of stuff. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Shout out to all of the Ichabod Patreon supporters. And if you are a believer out there, there's one thing you can do.
Praying for Brady.
Just pray for Brady. All right. All right, y'all. Much love. I'm out of here. Peace.